Chapter 567. At that moment, Zhang Qianlei's eyes were wide open, and his face was as red as blood. His rising speed became slower and slower as if he was being hindered by an invisible force. In the end, when he reached the limit and was about to fall, he twisted his waist and pushed with both hands, turning around and smashing down. That smash seemed light on the surface, but in the eyes of many experts, it was as heavy as a mountain. He smashed down with the air as if an ancient god had picked up Mount Buzhou and smashed it to the ground. It was unbelievably powerful. The first level of half-step human deity, the mountain-moving level. Qiu Xuanji's eyes suddenly became fanatical, and his body trembled with excitement. Only those who had reached the half-step human deity level could move the terrifying spirit qi of heaven and earth from their surroundings and forcefully compress it into their spells. Every wisp of Dao Qi contained terrifying spirit Qi of heaven and earth, which could unleash terrifying power in a fight. Mountain moving? It will definitely cause an imbalance in the spirit Qi of heaven and earth. Where did you lose the spirit Qi? The Maoshan sect master and the others looked around with strange lights in their eyes. They seemed to want to see if Zhang Qianlei had really reached such a level. Jiang Tian's divine sense had already sensed it clearly. 10 kilometers away, a mountain that was more than a few hundred meters tall and stretched for several miles looked like a chafed radish or a grain eaten by worms. The essence of the earth qi in the entire mountain was instantly sucked dry by Zhang Qianlei, and it became riddled with holes. Between Zhang Qianlei's hands, there was chaos and extremely heavy, containing all the earth qi essence of the mountain. It was so vivid that it looked like a small sea mountain. With this attack, not to mention a tank or an armored vehicle, even a super battleship would be smashed into pieces. You really moved the entire mountain. Your control of the spirit qi of heaven and earth is extraordinary, far beyond Wei Shuofeng, Gong Yuanji and the others. Unfortunately, you met me. In response, Jiang Tian only smiled faintly. Suddenly, rays of golden light burst out of his eyes. He stomped on the ground and soared into the sky, punching out with an indomitable force. You want to use your body to resist my green bamboo mountain's earth qi? You're too arrogant. Seeing this scene, even Zhang Qianlei was shocked. His face was filled with disbelief. If Jiang Tian didn't know anything and took the mountain-moving strike head-on, it would be excusable. However, he was already aware of the situation, yet he did not evade the attack and used his physical body to take it head-on. This was simply courting death. At this moment, the green bamboo peak had already revealed its true form. It continued to expand like a building, towering between heaven and earth, smashing down on Jiang Tian. Before the aura of the mountain range arrived, the surging pressure arrived first. First, the ground that was full of ice trembled and cracked. Soon after, the towering trees shook violently, as if they had been slapped down by the giant hands of the giant miracle god. They snapped and fell to the ground, and countless branches and leaves turned into fine powder in an instant. In the end, the boulders exploded one after another like ignited firecrackers. The rubble flew through the air and swept up thousands of piles of snow. Retreat quickly. We can't fight against such a mighty force of heaven and earth. Many transcendent state cultivators were in excruciating pain, as if a blade was scraping their bones. Every inch of their flesh was about to be torn apart. They couldn't bear it anymore and hurriedly retreated to the side of the mountain like shooting stars. Do you think you can hurt me with that little bit of earth qi? Only Jiang Tian was fearless. He moved forward and fully displayed the power of the gung metal divine body. His body was surrounded by an infinite amount of light. His golden body, golden hair and golden eyes were enveloped in a golden aura and thousands of auspicious colors. He was like a Buddha or a god descending to the mortal world. At this moment, his entire body turned into a 100-meter-long golden light beam. There seemed to be nothing left in the world except for this dazzling golden light. Sharp and powerful. Sharp and indestructible. Body-forming weapon. There are still people who can cultivate such a secret technique. Seeing this, Zhang Qianlei was shocked and he couldn't believe it. He suddenly had a bad feeling. Whoosh. That golden light beam carried all of Jiang Tian's power. It was powerful and sharp as if it could pierce through an aircraft carrier. There was a loud rumble. The surging and heavy earth qi was penetrated by Jiang Tian and then exploded uncontrollably. The entire peak was a mess. More than half of it had been indiscriminately hit by missiles and other heavy firepower. Huge pits with a radius of 10 meters and a depth of more than 3 meters appeared. The golden light faded and Zhang Tian once again formed the gung metal divine body. He stood proudly in the void like a god descending to the world. It's mountain move. This is the mountain move of a half-step human immortal. The people of the Heavenly Alliance were excited and cheered. However, Zhang Qianlei had already attacked again. Kong Teichu, I didn't expect you to be able to break my mountain move. Very good. Today's battle was truly satisfying. However, I believe that the martial Dao is absolutely incomparable to the sorcery Dao. Today I'll definitely kill you to the point that not even dregs remain to prove my supreme Dao. Seeing this, Zhang Qianlei was not discouraged. Instead he became more irritable and his battle intent rose again. His silver hair was like dragons and his eyes were filled with endless killing intent. Thunder, come! Zhang Qianlei shouted explosively with a voice that resounded like a bell, and it reverberated through the heavens and the earth while its might swept through the surroundings. He rose to the sky and raised his right hand. With this move, his figure suddenly became majestic like a pillar that supported the heavens. It was as if his hand had already risen above the 9 heavens. Then he pulled his hand down. 3,000 meters in the sky, the sea of clouds churned and large gray clouds suddenly rolled and rubbed against each other like millstones. Boom, boom. Silver snakes danced among the clouds and golden pythons pierced through the sky. A bolt of lightning that was more than 100 meters long and as thick as a bucket was pulled by his hand like the Milky Way falling from the 9 heavens. The cold winter attracts the summer thunder, defying the heavens and following one's heart. The Heaven Awakening Stage. The second stage of a half-step human immortal, the Heaven Awakening Stage. Oh my god! Look at Wuxia. It's the first time someone has reached the Heaven Awakening Stage in 100 years. A real half-step human immortal. The eyes of countless Dharma cultivators were filled with tears. In the Age of Doom, the spirit chi of heaven and earth was thin and cultivation resources were scarce. The shackles were difficult to break. Many people thought that the Tao body was the end of the road, but Zhang Qianlei's cultivation level gave them hope. The hope of becoming an immortal. Spells and martial arts. One used the essence chi of heaven and earth to form spells, the other used the spirit chi of heaven and earth to strengthen oneself, but they were different ways to the same end. Above the Tao body and immortal state was the half-step human immortal, and above that was the real human immortal. There were 3 stages in the half-step human immortal. The mountain-moving stage, the Heaven Awakening stage and the longevity stage. The so-called Heaven Awakening stage was the enlightenment of the heavenly Tao. The body was like a glass mirror, pure and flawless and merged with the world. The body was like a key to open the Tao of heaven and earth. It could directly mobilize a large amount of spirit chi of heaven and earth and do things according to one's will. To be able to reach the Heaven Awakening stage and control the most explosive lightning energy in the world, Zhang Qianlei was only a step away from becoming a real human immortal. Kong Teichu, no matter how powerful you are, you can't resist my heavenly thunder strike. Zhang Qianlei held a bolt of lightning as thick as a bucket and looked like a giant python with infinite power, as if the god of thunder had descended. The lightning enveloping him was dazzling and bright, illuminating a few miles. The snow, dead trees and rocks were all covered in a layer of dazzling white, making the full moon in the sky and the lights in the city pale in comparison. Wuxia's spells are really profound. Seeing this scene, even Athena was stunned. She said in shock, "The lightning he pulled down is completely natural. It's not inferior to Zeus's divine thunder at all." Zhang Qianlei, is that all you've got? Come, let me break your heavenly thunder strike. Zhang Tian smiled coldly, delighted at the sight of a prey. After returning, he had seen the lightning Dharma treasures of the Celestial Master sect more than once, but it was the first time he encountered a lightning spell. To be honest, even in the cultivation world, there were not many people who could control lightning spells as easily as Zhang Qianlei. At this time, Zhang Tian had already observed that Zhang Qianlei was actually a lightning spirit, or rather, a lightning talent and ability user. He happened to be born in the Celestial Master sect, which was famous for its lightning spells and received the true teachings. Such a rare combination of talent and luck created a peerless powerhouse like him. I'm your grandpa. Today I'm going to destroy your body and soul, not leaving a trace. Zhang Qianlei had a bad temper, but Zhang Tian was a master of trash talk. He was so angry at Zhang Tian's words that he fumed and gnashed his teeth. With a furious roar, he waved his right hand. The terrifying lightning was like a furious dragon emerging from the sea, shining with a dazzling light. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws, pouncing on Zhang Tian. "Break it!" In response, Zhang Tian shouted in a low voice. For the first time he really made a move. He waved his right hand and slashed down like a knife cutting water. A dazzling golden chi weapon that was 30 meters long slashed at the lightning dragon like the Milky Way falling from the ninth heaven. Boom! The golden long saber slashed on the lightning dragon, and immediately there was a roar and explosion. The dragon-like lightning rolled and shrank as if it was struggling. Immediately after, the Gingjin saber radiance pressed forward and cut the lightning dragon into several pieces. The lightning collapsed, and like small snakes that had encountered an owl, they drilled into the ground in fear and disappeared. Immeasurable heavenly venerable. This kid can break my ninth heaven divine thunder. He must be the reincarnation of the old demon. Seeing this scene, the hot-tempered Zhang Qianlei couldn't believe it at first, then he cursed. He was shocked. The ninth heaven divine thunder was no joke. It was 10,000 degrees high and could melt everything. Not to mention a mortal body, even a peerless divine weapon would be turned into molten steel in an instant. He was even confident that he could seriously injure Yi Tianren with this blow. But now, his ninth heaven divine thunder didn't even touch the corner of Jiang Tian's clothes. It was destroyed by Jiang Tian's wave of hand. Who knew that after breaking through to the 6th level of qi refinement, Jiang Tian's 7th metal divine body, true essence and spirit power were all powerful. At this time his 7th metal true essence was boiling and surging like the sea. It was abundant and thick, and the condensed qi weapon was also solid. Moreover, the 7th metal true essence was the sharpest and most condensed thing in the world. It could cut everything and destroy all living things. It could also guide thunder and lightning, which was the nemesis of thunder spells. Kill, kill, kill. Today, if I don't beat you into a braised lion's head, if I don't turn you into a barbecue, I swear I'm not a human. For a moment, Zhang Qianlei didn't understand this. It was just that his fighting spirit and anger surged like a prairie fire, rising into the sky and burning the sky. He was very brave, and his eyes were as sharp as knives as he pounced on Jiang Tian. Chapter 568. Boom. Zhang Qianlei threw a punch. It was as powerful as a missile, leaving a white mark in the air. Wherever the fist passed, the void distorted and trembled as if it was about to be annihilated. "Old man, you're no match for me." Jiang Tian activated his gung metal divine body. His long golden hair flowed like a waterfall and his long robe fluttered in the wind. He used his gung metal divine body to fight against a half-step human deity of the heavenly enlightenment state. The other party was already at the peak stage of the Tao body and was stronger than a diamond. The two of them were evenly matched. It was like Mars colliding with Earth. Clang. The two fists collided and sparks flew everywhere. It was as if a yellow bell had been rung, shocking everyone's eardrums. The sparks were actually because Jiang Tian's fist was broken. Although it wasn't serious, it was the first time Jiang Tian's gung metal divine body had been damaged in a fight with a human. Half of Zhang Qianlei's fist was shattered. Blood, flesh and broken bones splashed in the air like fireworks. Form. But Zhang Qianlei shouted and used a secret art. A strange scene happened. Like a rewind camera, the splattered blood, flesh and broken bones suddenly condensed into his fist. The peak stage of the Tao body is sublimated to the extreme. Half-step human deity, the heavenly enlightenment state, can move at will and control the body at will. Kong Teichu, you can't kill me even if you tire yourself to death. Zhang Qianlei laughed complacently. You talk too much. Jiang Tian shouted angrily and slapped down with his golden palm. Boom. A giant golden palm more than 5 meters long fell from the sky and smashed half of Zhang Qianlei's body. Heavenly venerate of Wuliang's mother. You're really ruthless. Zhang Qianlei flew into a rage and let loose a torrent of abuse. He executed a series of secret techniques, condensed his body and changed his appearance. It was the young man in an azure robe, Zhang Qianlei. He was tall and muscular with black hair draped over his shoulders. Heavenly venerate of Wuliang's mother. I'm actually at the longevity state. Brat, you've made me really angry. Go to hell. Rejuvenation, this kind of miracle that only appeared in legends, had appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Shocking, too shocking. Zhang Qianlei is so strong. He has actually reached the peak of the half-step human immortal stage, the longevity stage. Trump card after trump card. He's using all his trump cards. Kang Taechu is also domineering. Just his strong physique alone is enough to break through all techniques. We've met our match in this battle. It's unprecedented. Qiu Xuanji, the Maoshan sect master, the people from the Heaven Alliance and the experts from the Dark World were all speechless. At this moment, everyone had forgotten the cause of the battle between the two. The Song clan and the Lu clan were nothing but ants and dust. Worldly dignitaries were not even worth mentioning. Only the supreme Taoist arts and the ultimate evolution of the peak of the martial Tao were worthy of their attention. It was as if all the background had dimmed and vanished. Between heaven and earth, only these two powerful figures were left. I have forgotten everything, I have forgotten everything. Watching the battle between Kang Taechu and Zhang Qianlei is like drinking wine. It's so satisfying. Qiu Xuanji took out an ancient ceramic wine bottle and took a big gulp. He was already drunk. Bang, bang, bang. Their fists and feet were swinging, and the sound of their bodies colliding was like continuous thunder. It was as if heavy cannons were exploding on the top of Cloud-Watching Peak. Immeasurable Heavenly Lord, if I don't trample you under my feet today, I'll change my surname to yours. The young man Zhang Qianlei had a fiery temper. His thick black hair danced in the wind, and his fighting spirit soared into the sky. Every time he swung his fist, it seemed to have the power to shatter heaven and earth. He was like the fighting immortal Buddha who broke Taishang Laojuan's alchemy furnace. He wanted to flatten the mountains and pierce through the sky with his staff. His longevity stage Taoist body was extremely powerful, and his fighting spirit soared into the sky. His temperament was like thunder and fire, and his killing intent was terrifying. With a shake of his shoulder, the earth shook and the mountains shook. With a punch, the sun and moon dimmed. With a stomp, the stars moved. It was extremely terrifying. You stinky old Taoist, you have a bad temper, all brawn and no brain. I don't want a descendant like you. However, Jiang Tian's fist techniques were even more powerful, and his style was ever-changing. Sometimes he was like an old ape circling a tree, sometimes a dragon flying in the sky, sometimes an eagle soaring in the sky, sometimes a fish swimming in the shallow water. Sometimes he was simple and majestic, sometimes he was fierce and violent, sometimes he was calm and peaceful, and sometimes he was tricky like a poisonous snake spitting out its tongue. Between opening and closing, the Tao was natural, and between stretching and stretching, it was in accordance with the heavenly Tao. Jiang Tian's figure was as heavy and majestic as 10,000 mountains in an instant. Sometimes he was as smooth as the clouds in the sky, and sometimes he was as swift as the fire in the mountains. He was as strong as steel, as flexible as a bow, and as soft as cotton. Sacred Heart King Fist, 6 Nirvana Fist, Primordial Chaos Fist. Sets of immortal fist techniques from the cultivation world were displayed by Jiang Tian to his heart's content. Among the different fist techniques, the connection was as smooth as moving clouds and flowing water. It was so wonderful that it was untraceable. The crowd had never seen or heard of these fist techniques before. They looked like the fist techniques of a banished immortal who had descended to the mortal world. One of them was at the peak of the Taoist physique and had been sublimated to the longevity realm. The other was the 1 in 10,000 in the cultivation world, the Gengjing divine physique. His movement and speed were so fast that it was beyond the limit of what the human eye could see. In the end, only 2 afterimages, one white and one green, were left on the mountain peak, swimming and soaring in the sky. Everyone was dizzy from watching. Their hearts almost jumped out of their throats. Boom! There was a loud sound. Suddenly, the 2 figures came together and separated. They each retreated more than 200 meters and stood on the mountain rock. Only then did the crowd see. Jiang Tian's clothes had been torn, and the golden light on his body was sometimes dim and sometimes shining. In some places the golden light had fallen off and blood flowed out like mercury. The young man Zhang Qianlei was not much better. His hair was messy and he was panting like a cow. His left fist had been shattered and his chest had been blown up. Blood flowed out and dyed his Taoist robe red, revealing his white bones. They could not restore their constitutions. It was obvious that the 2 of them had consumed a lot of energy in this battle and could no longer display their peak combat power. Awesome, awesome. Kang Taechu, you are the most powerful person I have ever seen in my life. If you and I can survive this battle, This old man is willing to make incense with you and become sworn brothers with you. The young man Zhang Qianlei was sweating profusely. He grinned strangely, showing his heroic and detached side. His bright eyes could not hide the excitement and appreciation. Bah! You think too highly of yourself. You are worthy of being Kong Teichu's brother. You are only worthy of being my lackey. Jiang Tian's face was full of disdain, but in fact he admired Zhang Qianlei a little. He and Zhang Qianlei were not mortal enemies. Zhang Qianlei had never hurt Jiang Tian before. He was not a cunning, sinister, ambitious, or evil person. He was different from those rascals in White Emperor City. He had only attacked tonight to repay the kindness of the Lu and Song families. From this point of view, Zhang Qianlei could even be said to be a heroic and righteous person. It was just that their standpoints were different. On a deeper level, their battle was the ultimate battle of spells and martial arts. It was the ultimate battle of trump cards. It was like two stars in the night sky flying forward along a fixed trajectory and colliding with fate. Even if the Lu and Song families did not push them behind the scenes, they would still cross paths and have a shocking battle. Immeasurable celestial venerable, this Taoist grandpa can't stand your arrogance. Hearing that, Zhang Qianlei was so angry that he stomped his feet. He was like a smelly monkey on a hot iron plate, gritting his teeth. But the last sentence was a kind reminder. I will not hold back in the next attack. Be careful, kid. If you can withstand this move of mine, I'll consider it my loss. I can even carry your shoes. What are you talking about? The soup my wife made for me is about to turn cold. Hurry up and attack. I want to go back and drink the soup. Jiang Tian waved his hand disdainfully. You don't have a wife, right? Are you a single dog for life? No one to warm your bed, right? How pitiful. You're talking to me about this in the middle of a battle. Zhang Qianlei was speechless. Good, very good. I like it when you provoke me. The greatest respect for your opponent is to kill with all your strength, leaving no room for negotiation. I hope you and I can do the same and fight with all our cultivation. Zhang Qianlei's eyes shone with a strange light. He suddenly grabbed at the void with both hands as if he was going to tear the sky apart each time. Then Zhang Qianlei's body suddenly became blazing, and a dazzling white light penetrated his body. In that instant, under the illumination of the blazing white light, his body became transparent. Every inch of bone, every piece of organ, every strand of muscle, every meridian and blood vessel was clearly visible. One could even see their powerful beating. Divine thunder of the nine heavens, great Tao chains kill. Zhang Qianlei's eyes emitted blazing lightning in a frenzied manner. The lightning surged like a tide. The white light penetrating his body turned out to be the divine thunder of the nine heavens. They were so dense that they could not be distinguished from one another. They burst out like flames. Countless lightning bolts interwove into chains of lightning that shot out in all directions like divine chains. Whoosh! The lightning intertwined into chains of the great Tao that contained the power of the laws. Each chain was like a dragon, spreading out with Zhang Qianlei as the center. Clang, clang, clang. Amidst the ear-piercing screeching and the dazzling lightning, the lightning as thick as an arm formed a net of lightning covering an area of 3 li, shrouding and penetrating Jiang Tian. The lightning was shockingly huge. There were countless of them and they intertwined into a net. It felt like it was covering the sky and the sun and there was no way to avoid it. Moreover, its power was unimaginable. Each lightning bolt contained endless power of lightning, and could easily crush a half-martial realm expert. This is the power of the laws? This is rumored to be something that only a real immortal man can use. On Haito Mountain, Qiu Xuanji was shocked to see this scene. He felt a chill run down his spine and a liter of white wine turned into cold sweat. Is Celestial Master Zhang already a real immortal man? Oh my god. This is too shocking. The Mao Shan sect master trembled with excitement. His face was full of shock and tears. No, master once said that there is still a long way to go before he becomes an immortal man. This is him using the power of the laws with his life on the line. Zhang Jiwei's eyes glistened with tears as he said worriedly. If he uses it continuously, he can only last an hour at most before he dies. Chapter 569. Song Beishan, my master has risked his life for the Song family. If my master dies today, I'll teach the Song family and the Lu family a lesson. Two powerful cultivators fought each other and forced Master Lei to use the power of a mortal deity. Some disciples of the Celestial Master sect yelled at Song Beishan with hatred and tears rolling down their cheeks. Only a mortal deity can use the power of the law of heaven and earth. This is Zhang Qianlei's real trump card. Countless perfected cultivators were shocked and shook their heads. Even Master Hongba Yang Guochang and the Master of the Snake Witch sect, who were on Jiang Tian's side, looked at him with admiration. It wasn't that they didn't support Jiang Tian, nor did they have any ulterior motives. Instead, as sorcerers, they knew very well how difficult and terrifying this attack was. Lightning was the most violent and unstable form of energy in the natural world. Its trajectory and shape were constantly changing, making it hard to predict. If one wanted to rely on manpower to control it, even with modern equipment, it would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. This was its rule. However, Zhang Qianlei was amazing. He used his supreme art and his own law to form a stable shape and intertwine the chain and the net. It wasn't something a human could do. He was a real immortal. It was like a myth. Victory or defeat will depend on this. The people of the Heavenly Alliance, Lu Zhenghua, Song Beishan and Song Shuangyan were all shocked. At this moment, their hearts were in their throats and their faces were full of shock and horror. The chain formed by the divine thunder of the 9 heavens reached the sky and the earth. The blazing light made the sun and the moon dim. Even the people in Yanjin could see it with their own eyes. Such a spectacular scene and such a great power was not a spell. It was clearly a spell cast by a deity. It was even more terrifying than the thunder god's hammer. Zhang Qianlei, you're indeed a talented cultivator. You can understand your own law and control the divine thunder so well. If I met your heavenly thunder net half a year ago, I would have to avoid it and use all my strength. On cloud observing peak, Jiang Tian had his hands behind his back as he looked at the net of lightning that descended from the sky and covered the sky with a calm expression. But now, my gung-metal divine body has already reached great success. Can be said that other than nuclear weapons and intercontinental missiles, nothing in this world can hurt me. What's more, the metal element physique is incomparably tough and dense to begin with. The thing it fears the least is lightning attacks. All right. It's time to end this. In the next moment, Jiang Tian let out a low shout and stomped his right foot on the ground. The ground shook violently, and with the help of the surging rebound force, his body rose up like a dragon. His right hand grabbed at the air like a dragon's claw, grabbing at the thick lightning bolts. Kong Teichu, are you courting death? You will be electrocuted into ashes. Idiot, don't you know how to run if you can't win? Zhang Qianlei frowned and shouted sternly. A trace of worry appeared in his eyes as he thumped his chest and stamped his feet. His heart was filled with regret. He's dead. He's finally going to die. On high to a mountain, Song Shuangyan and the Song and Lu family members were gritting their teeth and cursing. He's dead. Who can resist this kind of thunder net? Some were taking pleasure in Jiang Tian's misfortune, as if Jiang Tian was already a dead man. Once the thunder net was activated, it was as if it had a mind of its own. Like a fishing net being lifted, it suddenly shrank and condensed into a shining thunder ball. In just a breath's time, Jiang Tian was completely enveloped. The white light was so bright that nothing could be seen clearly. Good. Kong Teichu, the evil bastard, is finally dead. Lu Zhenghua grinned, unable to hide the pain in his heart. He looked up to the sky and sighed. Li Xuan, my poor great-grandson, I finally avenged you. What? The leader is dead? Master Kong. The people of the Heaven Alliance, the Huaxiaolong formation Yizhantian, and the others exclaimed, their eyes full of unwillingness and disbelief. This was the 9th heaven divine thunder with the power of laws, far more powerful than electromagnetic cannons and comparable to nuclear power. Even an aircraft carrier would be crushed by it. No matter how powerful Jiang Tian was, he was just a mortal. How could he resist it? I told you not to hit him, but you insisted on hitting him. Well, you're hurting him and he's happy. Chao Jianjia laughed bitterly, but hot tears had already rolled down from her clear and beautiful eyes. Master, what's the point of living without you? Who will support Lord Tan's faction? Li Jinju's body swayed and she fell to the ground, tears streaming down her face. The Chinese branch of the Heaven Alliance will fight the Song family and the Lu family from now on. The master of the red boat could no longer maintain his composure. He looked at Song Beishan and the others with hatred and said through gritted teeth, Sai, if we wait another 10 years he might be able to defeat Zhang Qianlei. Venus's fairy-like face showed a trace of regret. She could not help but shake her head and sigh. Many of the powerhouses had the same feeling. Kang Taichu had made great progress in the past few years, and he had dominated East Asia and Southeast Asia. It was a pity that he had met his end in such a way. Let's go. The master of the snake witch sect patted the giant snake under his feet and was about to leave. He was so powerful, like a god. How could he die? Han Qingli and Xiao Lin heaved a sigh as tears welled up in their eyes. We won. We won. Countless disciples of the Song clan and Lu clan raised their arms and cheered in high spirits as if they had won a grand prize. This was indeed worth celebrating. The Bai family had been destroyed and Kang Taichu had died tonight. The 6 major martial arts families of Yanjin had no leader, and this was the perfect time for the Song family and the Lu family to rise. The Song family and the Lu family had spent a lot of money to recruit people with special abilities. In less than 3 years they would be able to conquer Yanjin and dominate Wuxia. Hihi Jiangtian, you are finally finished. Song Shuangyan smiled and regained her luster. She was immensely proud of herself. Even if you are the reincarnation of the old fiend, even if you have a lot of luck, even if you are extremely talented, you have still lost. You still don't have the power to challenge the Song family. This is an unchangeable fact. Your background is too poor to change your fate. You should have accepted it a long time ago. Heavenly Master Zhang, please accept our respect. Heavenly Master Zhang, defeating Kang Taichu is equivalent to dominating the world of martial arts and Dharma spells. Congratulations, congratulations. From now on, you are the supreme arbiter of the cultivation world in Wuxia, and the guardian of the Song family. We will always be loyal to you. On Cloud Viewing Peak, a few Song family disciples who did not run away flew to Zhang Qianlei's front and prostrated themselves in worship, praising him like a tide. Congratulations to your mother. Fuck you. Get out. Although he had won, Zhang Qianlei's face was full of anger. He shouted and kicked a disciple. The disciple flew 10 meters away. His bones and tendons were broken and he spat out blood. He stretched out his legs and died instantly. Everyone was confused and shocked. They didn't know why Zhang Qianlei was so angry. Zhang Qianlei, why are you sad? I'm just warming up in your lightning for a while. It was also at this moment that Jiang Tian's light laughter suddenly sounded out from within the dazzling ball of lightning that was still shining brightly. Everyone looked at it in horror and saw a pair of golden hands reaching out from the lightning ball. Then, under everyone's incredulous and horrified gaze, the 2 hands grabbed the edge of the lightning ball and tore it gently as if it were paper. Whoosh! Jiang Tian actually tore a large hole in that extremely condensed thunderball with a temperature of 10,000 degrees. You are not dead. Then Zhang Qianlei exclaimed in surprise and shock. Jiang Tian took a step out of the thunderball and slightly turned around. His hands waved as if he was pulling in a fishing net. He pulled the thunderball into his hands. The thunderball was compressed to the size of a basketball in Jiang Tian's hand. It shone brightly and instantly lit up the dark mountaintop. It was even brighter than daytime. Within a few kilometers, the withered branches, ugly rocks and dirty snow were covered with a layer of dazzling halo. They lost their original appearance and became incomparably holy. Jiang Tian's control of the lightning ball was like a sun rising in the dark night. Ah! A few people from the secular world covered their eyes and fell to the ground with screams. Their eyes had been burned and their capillaries had burst, revealing traces of blood. Even transcendent martial artists and ethereal enlightenment martial artists couldn't withstand this terrifying light. They quickly turned around and closed their eyes. But through the pale blood-red eyelids, they could still feel the extreme energy of the flames. The people who closed their eyes first heard a complex roar like the wailing of thousands of ghosts. The sound made their eardrums and internal organs tremble. Fortunately, they didn't vomit blood. Then there was a sound like a muffled thunderclap, followed by the sound of countless heavy objects collapsing and falling to the ground. It was as if the earth was being beaten again and again like the skin of a drum. It shook violently, making people unable to stand steadily and feel dizzy. This time, the tremor lasted for a few minutes before it gradually weakened and finally disappeared. The spectators also felt that the dazzling lightning seemed to have disappeared. They slowly opened their eyes and saw a shocking scene. The 100-meter-high rocks at the top of Cloud Watching Peak had been completely shaved off. It was a mess. As if an ancient god had swung a giant axe, cloud-watching peak was almost on the same level as the secondary peak. Smoke and dust billowed in that area. It was chaotic and nothing could be seen clearly. There were still residual electric sparks flashing in the void like thin silver snakes. Who won? Someone was puzzled. In the end, Jiang Tian tore apart the lightning ball and compressed it to the extreme. It was dazzling and everyone closed their eyes. The battle seemed to have lasted for a few minutes and was very explosive, but no one could see it. Everyone was silent and didn't understand the situation. Suddenly a figure floated down. It was Zhang Qianlei. Many people immediately cheered. Is there even a need to ask? My master naturally won. Many disciples of the Celestial Master sect of Longhu Mountain were full of confidence and complacency. Their master's final stage was the real power of a half-step human immortal. How could Kong Teichu be a match for him? Chapter 570. That's right. The power of a half-step mortal deity is incomparable to that of a mortal. Even though Kong Teichu is at the peak of the immortal state, there is still a gap of 3 levels between them. He won't be a match for him at all. Qiu Xuanji said excitedly. That's right. Jiang Taichu could also be considered to be extremely talented. However, Zhang Qianlei used the divine power of a mortal deity. In fact, if Kong Teichu cultivates for another 20 years, he might be able to defeat him. The sect master of the Maoshan sect also nodded. That's right. Heavenly Master Zhang has already mastered the power of the laws of the Great Path. No matter how strong Kong Teichu is, he is still a mortal. How can he compete with the power of the laws of heaven and earth? Looks like my Dharma spells are better after all. That's right. Martial arts only strengthen the body. It's still a small path if you don't understand the endless power of heaven and earth. Other than Master Hongbao Yang Guochang and perfected cultivator Hongye, who were close to Jiang Tian, most of the Taoist sect cultivators were very excited and overjoyed. That night's battle was regarded as the most powerful battle between Dharma spells and martial arts in Wuxia. Of course, they would stand on Zhang Qianlei's side. Did Kong Teichu lose? It can't be. He can also control lightning. But there was still an explosion in the end. That means Zhang Qianlei has defeated Kong Teichu again. As for the Dark Overlords, many of them also stood on Jiang Tian's side. They couldn't help but sigh in disbelief. Even more people were calmer. They were analyzing and evaluating the battle prowess and divine arts that the two of them had displayed in this battle. I didn't expect the Song family to have such a powerful heavenly master. They are so powerful. The Lu family has finally avenged themselves. Congratulations. From now on, the Song and the Lu family will dominate the world. They will work together to conquer Wuxia. Many wealthy families of Yanjin went to Lu Zhenghua and Song Beishan to congratulate them. We have offended you before. From now on we will pledge our loyalty to the Lu and Song clans. Even the Xia family, Ge family and Han family, who had always been at odds with the Song family and the Lu family, had to pinch their noses and eat shit, bowing their heads and admitting defeat. The faces of Zhang Jinghua's family were even paler than corpses that had been dead for 3 days. Zhang Danfeng hesitated. Grandpa, he still lost. Why don't we go up and pull some strings? Lu Zhenghua, Song Beishan, and Song Shuangyan were all high and mighty in the face of the many family heads who had bowed their heads in submission. But at this time Zhang Qianlei had already flown to the secondary peak. The 3 of them hurriedly went to welcome him. Congratulations, Celestial Master Zhang. We won. Celestial Master Zhang's dermic powers are unparalleled. Thunder kills Kong Teichu. This battle will definitely shake the world. No. I lost. Zhang Qianlei said indifferently. What? You lost? Isn't Kong Teichu dead? Lu Zhenghua, Song Beishan and Song Shuangyan's smiles suddenly froze on their faces. They could no longer smile. Who said I'm dead? A figure rose from the top of cloud-watching peak and slowly floated to the ground, landing soundlessly. He had black hair and black eyes. He was as handsome as a god. He was wearing a white robe and looked like a nobleman from the Republic of China. Kong Teichu. When they saw Jiang Tian, everyone trembled as if they were being strangled by the god of death. They could no longer say a word. Zhang Qianlei bowed deeply and respectfully to Jiang Tian, then looked at the crowd and said, I cast the lightning law chain, but Grandmaster Jiang raised his hand and controlled it, condensing it into a lightning ball. He could have killed me with the thunderball, but he pushed it into the mountain. You must know that I have forcibly raised my cultivation base to the half-step human immortal realm, but I can only control the law of lightning for a split second. If Grandmaster Zhang attacks me, how can I survive? Celestial Master Zhang still has energy left. He can still fight. The outcome hasn't been decided yet. Qiu Xuanji's face changed drastically and said unwillingly. I've already tried my best. If we fight again, I'll only die. It won't change the outcome. Zhang Qianlei shook his head and said. Besides, Kong Teichu and I are only sparring. It's not a battle of life and death. There's no need to kill anymore. Everyone knew that Zhang Qianlei had a fiery temper and was never weaker than others. He never bowed his head and never admitted defeat. Since he said so, it meant that he was definitely not as good as Jiang Tian. Congratulations, Master Kong. We Dao sect cultivators have surrendered. Qiu Xuanji hesitated for a moment and then knelt down with the other cultivators of the Dao sect. Congratulations, Master Kong. From now on, Master Kong will unify Wuxia and enter the world of cultivation. The people of the Heavenly Alliance knelt down and were overjoyed. That was not an exaggeration. Zhang Qianlei was the most powerful Dharma spell in the world, and Jiang Tian was the most powerful martial artist in the world. Now that he had defeated Zhang Qianlei, it meant that no one in the world of cultivation could defeat him. Congratulations, Master Kong. Athena, Artemis, the tall werewolf and the golden-armored general of the Blue Storm came forward to congratulate him. Kong Teichu controlled the lightning law chain and suppressed the half-step human immortals. His cultivation was unfathomable. Before a conflict broke out, they naturally had to show their goodwill. Thank you. Jiang Tian only nodded at those people. Now that both sides were observing each other's strength, there was no need to be unfriendly. Then Jiang Tian glanced at the people of the Lu family. Everyone shuddered at his words. Kong Teichu had always been ruthless and overbearing. He would kill people at the slightest provocation. Now that Zhang Qianlei had been defeated, who could stop him if Yi Tianren didn't show up? The Lu family also played a role in his fight against Zhang Qianlei. How could he let the Lu family go? Judge Jiang, it was the old man's idea that Master Lei fought with you. I am willing to bear the responsibility alone. Please let the rest of the Lu family go. Lu Zhenghua bent his back and lowered his head. His white hair trembled slightly in the breeze. Right now he no longer had the overflowing dignity of a founding father. He was just an ordinary elder, shivering in the cold wind, full of fear and distress. All the mortal families trembled when they saw this. They realized that an era had come to an end and a new era had begun. Even the family lord of the Lu family had bowed his head. Who else would dare to act rashly? Lu Lishuan was bewitched by the demoness and tried to kill me. I killed him and this matter will be settled. You just need to give me your family's property. Everyone thought that Jiang Tian was going to explode in anger and massacre the Lu family. Who would have thought that Jiang Tian would just skim past them like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water? Thank you, Master Kong, for sparing my life. Many members of the Lu family didn't have the slightest intention to resist. They all knelt down and thanked him. Even Lu Zhenghua bowed deeply and lowered his head. In the end, Jiang Tian walked slowly to Song Beishan and the others. Song Beishan hurriedly bowed and stepped forward. He handed over a contract document and a fragmented map and said fawningly, Master Kong, the Song family is willing to admit defeat. We will return this piece of the map to you. In addition, we will add 10% of the Song family's shares worth 50 billion as compensation. Is that all? Jiang Tian took the map and looked at Song Shuangyan coldly with a flash of killing intent in his eyes. Song Shuangyan's body trembled and her face turned as pale as a sheet. A deep fear gripped her body. Grandmaster Jiang, please quell your anger. Seeing Jiang Tian's unfriendly face, Song Beishan was scared out of his wits. Master Kong, as long as you let the Song family go, I am willing to betroth Song Shuangyan to you. Shuangyan is gifted and has a special constitution. She is a connate ice body. She is a cultivation genius. Even the big sects like Mount Shu and Kunlun are interested in her and want to recruit her as a disciple. When you both enter the sects, it will be a good story. Besides, the Song family is quite influential in the secular world. We can protect the Jiang family and the Jiang family can share the wealth. Isn't it the best of both worlds? Song Shuangyan has already won the favor of the sects? Song Beishan is really ruthless. He even sent his own granddaughter to be Kong Teichu's concubine. Everyone was shocked when they heard that. It had to be said that Song Beishan's words could be said to be brilliant. They were very bewitching and contained both threats and temptations. If Jiang Tian stopped, he would get the beauty and the support of the Song family. If he didn't stop, the Song family would fight him to the death. Besides, he would offend the sex that favored Song Shuangyan. Song Shuangyan's body trembled and her face blushed. She wanted to say something but stopped. In the end, she looked at Jiang Tian calmly. You have seen Shuangyan's attitude. Song Beishan was thick-skinned and continued to persuade her. She is proud and cold, but she is not ignorant. What she admires is the kind of man who can conquer her and control her. And Wuxia, only a genius like you can conquer her and win her heart. Look at her. She has breasts, but talent and cute. She is one of the 4 beauties of Yanjin. Isn't it the pursuit of all men? Beautiful women and power were the greatest temptation to men. Song Beishan was indeed an old hand at using power. At the same time, Zhang Danfeng, Han Junfeng and the others. Many young masters of Yanjin looked at Jiang Tian with envy and jealousy in their hearts. This woman's heart is like a snake. If you marry her, it's like having a poisonous snake by your side. In the crowd, Shen Mange, Li Jinju, Han Qingli, Xiao Lin, and the other girls' hearts were pounding madly. Song Shuangyan looked at Jiang Tian and said lightly, Jiang Tian, I know you are already married, but it doesn't matter. I can be your maid. I, Song Shuangyan, only admire strong men. Jiang Tian looked at them with a smile that was not a smile. Power and beauty, these were indeed great temptations. But for Jiang Tian, who had cultivated for 10,000 years and became the God Emperor, would he lack these things? There were countless beautiful fairies and demonic women who were waiting for him to visit them. There were countless empires waiting for him to control. Song Shuangyan and the others thought that the temptation was hard to resist, not to mention the young masters of the top families in Wuxia and the masters of the hidden sections. But they didn't know Jiang Tian's vision and experience. Hearing Song Shuangyan say such shameless words, Shen Mange, Han Qingli, Xiao Lin and the others were all surprised. This woman was so cruel. In order to climb up to Jiang Tian, she was so humble. Shen Mange also blushed. She couldn't help but think of the words she said to Jiang Tian in Shenong school. Song Beishan beauty? They are like floating clouds to me. Jiang Tian smiled coldly and said, now that things have come to this, is selling your granddaughter's body the only thing you can do? Chapter 571. Master Kong, your granddaughter genius beauty? Pa, so what? A woman with a heart like snakes and scorpions, even if she takes off her clothes, Kong Teichu will not look at her. Even 10 Song Shuangyans are not as charming as a strand of my wife's hair. Jiang Tian flatly refused. Jiang, you will regret it. Hearing this, Song Shuangyan's pretty face flushed red, almost dripping blood. She gnashed her teeth and angrily shouted. Regret? Now you are like a phoenix without feathers. What qualifications do you have to make me regret? How many pieces of the map do you have? Give them all to me. You owe me a few years of interest. Jiang Tian's face was full of ridicule and coldly said. This. Song Beishan hesitated to speak. But Song Shuangyan took a step forward, staring with watery eyes and proudly said, yes, my Song family has 2 pieces of the map, but they have been given to the head of Shu Mountain, and I, Song Shuangyan, have become his personal disciple. If you have the guts, go to Shu Mountain and ask for it. Good plan. Jiang Tian whispered with a faint smile. You think I don't dare to kill you? Then I will kill you. Go to hell. Jiang Tian was about to make a move, but Zhang Qianlei stepped forward and deeply bowed. Master Kong, give this poor Taoist some face and spare her life. This poor Taoist once swore in front of the ancestral tablets to protect the Song family's safety for 60 years. Now there are only 2 years left. Master Kong, don't let this poor Taoist break his promise. 2 years later you can kill her again. This poor Taoist will not stop you. Well, today I will give you face. Jiang Tian flicked his finger. A golden light broke through the air and hit Song Shuangyan's chest. What is this? Song Shuangyan asked in shock. Alas, your meridians have been crippled and there's a gung metal energy talisman suppressing several of your major acupoints. I'm afraid you won't be able to cultivate anymore. Zhang Qianlei shook his head and sighed. Song Shuangyan was dumbfounded. She waved her arms and legs and angrily cried, Jiang, you might as well kill me. Everyone's heart turned cold. Song Shuangyan racked her brains just to join the sect. She wanted to transcend worldly affairs and build the Song family into a martial arts family. Previously, Song Beishan had been proud of this. However, her constitution had been crippled and she had lost all her cultivation. She was even weaker than an ordinary person. How could she join a sect? Kong Teichu's move was too ruthless, even more ruthless than killing Song Shuangyan. Let her taste loss and defeat. Let her taste the despair of having her dreams shattered, and let her be immersed in regret forever. You're a genius? Are you still a genius now? I hope the Mount Shu sword sect will still want a genius like you. Jiang Tian said calmly. Song Shuangyan, wait for me at Xushan. Within 2 years I will kill you and take back the interest that belongs to me. Why didn't you kill me? Aren't you very arrogant? Didn't you threaten to kill me? Song Shuangyan said angrily. You are like an ant. I can kill you at any time. You are not worthy of my killing. Jiang Tian looked down at her peerlessly beautiful face that was full of resentment and hatred. He said disdainfully, your life is first stored. I can take it away at any time. Isn't that good? Do you want me to live in fear forever, suffering from worry, loss, and fear? Song Shuangyan's face stiffened. She muttered to herself. Then tears welled up in her eyes. Kong Teichu, you are a demon. A demon. I will not let you go. One day I will reconstruct my cultivation. I will trample you under my feet. I'll wait. Jiang Tian stepped on the air and flew in the direction of Yuhua Villa. Everyone looked at the immortal-like figure flying through the sky and burrowing into the ground, and a sudden realization arose in their hearts. Kong Teichu let Song Shuangyan go because he knew that the Song family was like a bird frightened by the twang of a bow and had no strength to fight with him. Many people sighed in their hearts. In today's Wuxia, the secluded sects did not come out. Perhaps only Yi Tianren and a few living fossils in Hongmeng could fight with him. Jiang Tian, why didn't you kill Song Shuangyan? Don't tell me you still have feelings for her? 3 days later in the villa, Qing'er smiled and said, this joke is very boring. Jiang Tian said indifferently, now the cultivation resources in the secular world of Wuxia have probably been plundered by us. Next we can only go to the secluded sects to look for them. But Shu Mountain has a concealment array left by the ancestors. It is very difficult to find. Even Yi Zhantian and Zhang Qianlei did not mention it. I put a divine sense mark on Song Shuangyan. When the time comes we can kill our way into Shu Mountain with this clue. Yes, before we find the path to the ruins of immortality, these semi-secluded sects are indeed the existence with the most cultivation resources. Qing'er couldn't help but sigh. Shu Mountain, there are many legends since ancient times. There are sword immortals and demon caves there. Jiang Tian stared at the west for a long time and said leisurely, Huainanzi also recorded that there are big rice seeds that are 4 to 5 feet wide. In addition, in the classic of mountains and seas, there are jade trees, and other precious trees. Although the legends are different, they are all very magical. There should be some hidden resources that will help you and me in our cultivation. I'm really looking forward to it. Zhao Xueqing's beautiful eyes were beautiful. Her smile was like 100 flowers blooming, beautiful and unparalleled. Now that her cultivation was at the 6th level of qi refinement, the immortal qi in her body was more abundant, and she was particularly beautiful. After suppressing the Lu family and the Song family, the name of the adjudicators will be known throughout Wuxia. Basically, except for the secluded sects, no one will dare to provoke us. Jiang Tian said faintly. It may not be safe. Zhao Xueqing's eyes flashed with a hint of worry. Shu Mountain sect wants the Song family's map of the ruins of immortality. It can be seen that they also yearn for the ruins of immortality. Song Shuangyan also knows that you have the map of the ruins of immortality to Shu Mountain sect. Master Kong, don't worry about it. My father is the descendant of Kunlun. He has already sent a message to Shu Mountain. The sword cultivators of Shu Mountain promise that they will not attack Master Kong. Suddenly, a hearty voice came up. Yi Zhantian strode in, followed by Zhang Qianlei. Brother Yi, congratulations on breaking through the barrier and stepping into the deity realm. Congratulations. Jiang Tian smiled and cupped his hands in salute. It's all thanks to me. Next to him, Zhang Qianlei put his hands behind his back and raised his head to look at the sky. He said smugly, Kong Teichu, you are stronger than me, but your understanding of Dharma Tao is not as good as mine. After the battle with Jiang Tian, Zhang Qianlei had reached a new level and stabilized his cultivation. He was only a step away from becoming a real half-step human immortal. At the moment he was wearing an azure Taoist robe. His black shoulder-length hair fluttered like a waterfall. He was tall and burly like a mountain that stood between the sky and the earth. His eyes were full of fighting spirit, which was even stronger than that of an ordinary middle-aged cultivator. Zhang Qianlei, you are a loser. You are talented, but your vision is limited. How can you know the vastness of the world? Jiang Tian snorted disdainfully, which directly hit Zhang Qianlei to the point that he wanted to cry but had no tears. Yi Zhantian felt that Jiang Tian was implying something. He said, "Brother Jiang, I have been studying you for many years. I feel that you are not an ordinary person. On the one hand, your cultivation is advancing too fast. On the other hand, your mentality is also different from ordinary people. Who the hell are you? Who can he be? He is just a mortal. He has not reached the peak of human immortal." Zhang Qianlei was arrogant. Even though he knew that Jiang Tian was powerful, he was not going to let him go. He looked at Jiang Tian and snorted. Maybe he got some inheritance from the ancient Taoist or the preaching Qi cultivators by chance. That's why he is so powerful. Maybe he is from the ruins of immortality. Ruins of immortality. Jiang Tian smiled disdainfully. In the end, it is just a space fragment of a low-level cultivation civilization. The reason I went to the ruins of immortality was for their cultivation resources, not for the inheritance of cultivation techniques. If you are not from the ruins of immortality, then where are you? Yi Zhantian frowned. He had been thinking about Jiang Tian's origin for a long time. Miyamoto Genichi once said that he was the reincarnation of the old demon. Yi Zhantian thought it was a bit unbelievable. After all, reincarnation and possession were too illusory. He also suspected that Jiang Tian came from the ruins of immortality. But Jiang Tian had been pursuing the path of the ruins of immortality. Obviously it was not quite right. "I come from the heavens," Jiang Tian said calmly. "What do you mean by heaven? It is still the ruins of immortality. You are deliberately mystifying." Zhang Qianlei said, "I have read the ancient books of Taoism. The ruins of immortality is the legendary heavenly court. Zhou Xian, the founder of the Ling Bao sect of the Eastern Han dynasty, Gu Hong of the Eastern Jin dynasty, Lu Dongbin of the Tang dynasty, Shang Xiang of the Song dynasty, and Zhang Sanfeng of the Ming dynasty should have all ascended to that place." Yi Zhantian was speechless. One of them was at the pinnacle of the immortal state, while the other was a half-step immortal, the number one cultivator in the Taoist sect. He didn't even have the right to interrupt their fight. "No, I came from the depths of the starry sky." In the end, Jiang Tian smiled slightly, his words shocking. "I knew it. I can't believe it." Hearing this, Yi Zhantian's face changed color. His eyes were filled with a strange light as he stared at Jiang Tian in disbelief. "Are you an alien? From Krypton? Superman? Are you a science fiction writer?" Zhang Qianlei smiled disdainfully. "The Voyager 1 has already flown out of the solar system and is 14 billion kilometers away from the Earth. But it has not found anything. Not even the most basic single-celled organisms, let alone aliens. Haha, those space probes can't even see 1/billionth of the universe." Jiang Tian said indifferently. "The universe is far more vast than you can imagine. Moreover, the prosperity of the cultivation civilization is far beyond the past and present of the Earth. But I can't be bothered to tell you this." Yi Zhantian asked in a hoarse voice, "Grandmaster Jiang, could it be that heaven immortal is still not the peak of cultivation? The sky immortals you call sky immortals are just foundation establishment cultivators. They are not real immortals." Jiang Tian smiled faintly, his eyes filled with disdain. Above foundation establishment there are golden core, nascent soul and soul formation. Soul formation cultivators have a lifespan of 2,000 years. Before that, they cannot be called immortals. Above that, there is void refinement and Mahayana. They have to go through 9 tribulations to become true immortals. What? Your cultivation system is so powerful? This time Yi Zhantian was completely stunned. Even Zhang Qianlei, who had always been arrogant and conceited, was shocked. Chapter 572. They had never heard of what Jiang Tian had just said. Even the Taoist classics had no record of it. The celestial immortal that they thought was the end of cultivation was only the third stage of the cultivation system that Zhang Tian had mentioned. How powerful and terrifying was the cultivation after that? It was beyond their imagination. Above the celestial immortals, there is the true God level, which belongs to the God level civilization. One punch can break a star and one Dharma artifact can contain a galaxy. Zhang Tian said lightly. Xianxia and Zhang Qianlei were dumbfounded. They stood motionless like clay statues. Their hearts were shaken to the extreme. Breaking a star with one punch. Is he still human? Xianxia couldn't help but exclaim after a long while. He was the leader of the Wuxia formation. But at this moment he felt as small as an ant. Zhang Tian, I'm very impressed by your ability to boast. Zhang Qianlei gave him a thumbs up, but his trembling right hand betrayed the shock in his heart. Zhang Tian had seen through Zhang Qianlei's stubbornness and arrogance, so he didn't take it seriously. He smiled and said, actually, you can think of the cultivators as a civilization of another level. Master Kong, please teach me the way of cultivation. Xiantian's face was stern. He lifted the hem of his robe and knelt on the ground to worship. This was exactly what Zhang Tian wanted. The Yi family's heritage came from Kunlun. Taking Xiantian as his disciple was a favor. When he was not around, Kunlun would protect the Jiang family. Brother Jiang, teach me a thing or two. Zhang Qianlei rubbed his hands. He was excited, but he was too proud to bow to Zhang Tian. Get out of my way. Zhang Tian didn't like him. He helped Xiantian up. He used his divine sense to pass on some basic techniques of cultivation to him and asked him not to spread them to anyone else. After the teaching, Xiantian bowed respectfully and said, from now on Master Kong is my master. If you have any orders, this disciple will not hesitate. Nodding his head in satisfaction, Zhang Tian smiled. It's fine as long as you know it. In the future, you and I will still treat each other as equals outside. Xiantian represented the Wuxia formation, which was the most powerful martial arts force in the secular world. Together with the Heaven Alliance, no one in the secular world dared to provoke the Jiang family. In addition, the Yi family was on good terms with the Kunlun sect. With him around, Shu Mountain would be afraid of Kunlun's power and would not attack the Jiang family easily. Zhang Qianlei didn't tell Jiang Qin the purpose of his visit until the matter was over. Brother Jiang, the Chinese Union in Singapore has conquered many cities in East Asia and obtained many cultivation resources. I admire your way of doing things. You should take the initiative to attack. Why should we let them snatch our resources? Now that I've come out of seclusion, I want to travel the world with you. Is there any place you want to go? Zhang Tian chuckled and said, why would I bring you along? Wouldn't it be great if I snatched it myself? Zhang Qianlei's face stiffened. He forced a smile and said, what are you talking about? You're not invincible in the world now. Won't it be great for us to fight side by side? Then what if you want to share the treasures with me? Zhang Tian chuckled and went straight to the point. I just want to fight, okay? You can have the treasures. I don't want any of them. Zhang Qianlei rolled his eyes and said disdainfully, besides, I'm a thunder cultivator. To be honest, the cultivation resources that you want are not of much use to me. Zhang Qianlei, you're so full of yourself. Zhang Tian smiled disdainfully and said, you want me to play with you? Sure, but you're not allowed to call yourself anymore. You have to call me master and be my servant. Zhang Qianlei was furious and shouted, Kong Teichu, don't be so shameless. I'm a half-step human immortal. Preposterous. Preposterous. The next moment he put his hands behind his back and looked up at the sky. He said weakly, I'll admit it in my heart, but I'll never call you that outside. Next to him, Qinger giggled, making Zhang Qianlei blush. He turned around and walked away. Master Kong, when are you going to take action? Call me, no, call me. Zhang Qianlei's humiliated voice came from the courtyard. The matter between the Lu and Song families is settled. It's time to put the other matter on the agenda. After the two left, Zhang Tian's eyes flickered as he smiled faintly. Are you talking about the immortal ascension blood arrow orchid? Zhao Xueqing said worriedly. I heard that Sidoni's tribe is in constant war. Also, that tribe is guarded by an alien deity. It's quite dangerous. This time I'll go with you? No, this time ask Ling to accompany me. Zhang Tian said calmly. She needs to gain some experience. Besides, the rainforest is full of vitality. It's easier for her to fight with her divine art of withering glory. Yes. That's good. Qing'er nodded and then said with a mischievous smile, you and Ling, better have a good relationship. What are you thinking about? Jiang Tian was slightly stunned when he heard that and his face turned red again. Although Linger's memory had been restored and she was also his woman, they had never had sex before. Huang Linger was very shy and Qing'er was always there. She had never taken the initiative to approach Jiang Tian. As for Jiang Tian, he merely laughed it off. He had never cared about it. Whether it was Zhao Xueqing or Huang Linger, they would embark on the immortal cultivation path in the future and live a carefree life as long as the heavens. Compared to the long years ahead, what was the meaning of a moment of pleasure? In Jiang Tian's eyes, Huang Linger was still very young. One day when she grew into the beautiful fairy Huang Ling, that would be the most perfect moment. Lin Fengyan also called. The immortal ascension blood arrow orchid was about to bloom. It was time to set off for Sidoni. While Jiang Tian and the others were preparing for their journey, America, Lincoln County, Nevada, Area 51, Blue Storm's secret underground base. Professor, this flower that can accelerate the evolution of the human body and stimulate potential is about to bloom. Call for a meeting immediately. A photo was placed on the professor's desk, one of the leaders of America's Blue Storm organization. This photo was the photo of the immortal ascension blood arrow orchid that Jiang Tian had seen in Lin Fengyan's hands. Is that so? That's great. The professor drove his wheelchair out of the office. After verifying the pupil lines, the 10-centimeter thick titanium alloy door with a cold metallic luster opened automatically. He arrived at a sci-fi looking conference room. In the conference room, a holographic projection was turned on. The 3D projection of the immortal ascension blood arrow orchid rotated gently in the center of the metal conference table. Around the circular conference table sat 7 powerhouses with powerful auras. Some were as hot as fire, some were as majestic as 10,000 mountains, and some had spiritual power as deep as the sea. The professor, who was famous all over the world, was only sitting in the 5th position. Behind them there were more than 10 powerhouses of all kinds. Most of them were D or S rank arcanists. The one leading them was from the Pentagon. His hair was white, his body was as straight as a sword, and there were 2 stars on his shoulders. However, he sat there and controlled the conference room. No one dared to say a word. That was because Keynes was the representative of the American military who was in contact with Blue Storm. In the past few years, Blue Storm's rapid development to become the world's #1 organization was inseparable from the support of the Pentagon. Now, I have received authorization from the President and the Secretary of Defense to declassify a top-secret 6-star document. Kane's cold voice echoed in the conference room. 10 years ago, the Saroni warlord we supported, Thorpe, the leader of the Freedom Liberation Army, invaded Changsho's tribe for a short period of time. He obtained an immature immortal ascension blood arrow orchid and secretly sent it to America. With the support of the Department of Defense, 7 universities including MIT, Stanford, and Columbia, joined forces with the laboratories of 3 top biochemical companies, DuPont, Bayer, and Altofina, to conduct human experiments on this magical flower that was rumored to be able to stimulate potential and achieve longevity. The results of the experiment were that it could achieve changes in the human genome, improve human athletic ability, and mass-produce arcanists. At this point, his tone became heavier as he said coldly, "Take note, it's a Class X arcanist. And the success rate is 80%. No way. A Class X arcanist. That's combat power comparable to a deity. Yeah, Blue Storm only has a dozen or so Class X arcanists." The expressions of many arcanists changed drastically as they looked on in disbelief. Even the professor could not help but say, "Blue Storm has also been conducting genetic modification experiments over the years, and even achieved the goal of reconstructing human genes, but they could not achieve such a success rate." "Then we can try." Keynes shrugged lightly as he said loudly, "See, lady, you can come in now." The tightly shut titanium alloy door did not open, but a blue stream of water gushed out from the millimeter-sized gap in the door. More and more water flowed out, gradually converging into a rippling, transparent human figure. The transparent human figure rippled violently as wheat-colored skin and seaweed-like long hair appeared. In a second, it turned into a normal human body. She wore a very thin, close-fitting garment that resembled a shark suit. It turned out to be a sexy woman with a voluptuous figure. Her body can turn into water, but this can only be called a Class S arcanist, right? Or maybe just a Class D. An abnormally tall, green-skinned, 5-meter-tall big guy who sat there still looked like a towering mountain, said in a low, muffled voice, his eyes full of disdain. The professor glanced at this person with a hint of fear in his eyes. Green Goblin. His real name was Harry Osborne, a Class S arcanist. He used to be the chairman of Auburn Biology in the United States. In the 1980s, he used his body to research human enhancement drugs, gradually gaining physical strength that far exceeded that of ordinary people. He could lift a 20-ton giant with his bare hands and destroy a building with a kick and a punch. He was also extremely fast and possessed superhuman strength. However, the side effects of the drugs gave birth to an extremely destructive and terrifying personality in his mind. As a result, Green Goblin was often sent to various local battlefields. During Operation Desert Storm in the Gulf War, he once flipped over several tanks of the Iraqi army with his bare hands. He came and went like the wind on the battlefield, unrivaled. However, this information was covered up by the United States on a global scale and very few people knew about it. In 10 minutes, a Class 12 hurricane will erupt in the Pacific Ocean near California. Switch to satellite images and live cameras. Keynes shrugged and even accurately reported the latitude, longitude, and coordinates. Chapter 573. Could it be that her ability is to predict storms? Then why do we still need the meteorological department? In the seat, a handsome man wearing a pair of black crystal sunglasses shrugged his shoulders and said. At this time, the satellite cloud picture gradually changed. The cloud, which was originally still and slowly moving, suddenly spun rapidly and changed rapidly. In almost a minute, it turned into a rapidly spinning cyclone. The seawater below, on the other hand, seemed to be stirred crazily by the giant hand of an invisible god. It boiled, rolled, and spun violently. In the end, water pillars that were more than 100 meters thick rose into the sky like long dragons. The surroundings of the water pillars seemed to have been hollowed out by an invisible giant hand. It was impossible to see how deep the water pillars were. 10 kilometers away from the water pillars, a corvette with a displacement of more than 2,500 tons was like a toy boat that was powerlessly struggling in the stormy sea. It slid uncontrollably into the sunken seawater and gradually tilted. In the end, it was swallowed by the monstrous waves. Sea girl. Stop it. General Keynes smiled with satisfaction and nodded at the sea girl. The sea girl exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. Her hands that were spinning and moving slowly stopped. The hurricane also gradually disappeared within 10 minutes. The sea surface calmed down at a speed visible to the naked eye. The corvette broke through the heavy waves and floated on the sea surface. So, the sea girl's ability is to create hurricanes? And from dozens of kilometers away? The professor felt that his throat was trembling. That's right. It turns out that the sea girl was a patient with terminal cancer. The cancer cells had already spread to her entire body. She was recruited to be our test subject. Now, not only has she been cured of her cancer, she has also obtained this ability. Keynes stood up. A simple action of straightening his body made his figure suddenly become as majestic as a mountain. It made him reveal a calm, determined, and wise temperament. Ladies and gentlemen, after the rise of Jiang Taichu, the experts of the U.S. military once asserted that the stimulation of the human body's potential may become a new round of arms race, following the conventional competition, the nuclear competition, and the strategic defense of space. Our genetic, physical, and chemical research teams, after research, once despaired and believed that we could not mass-produce super experts like Kong Taichu. Now we see hope. We see hope to surpass Kong Taichu. Everyone has seen it. An immature blood orchid could create level X or even level X arcanists. What about mature ones? We can even create real gods. And you will become the gods of the United States. Keynes' eyes shone with a greedy light as he slammed his fist on the alloy table like a hammer, causing the documents on the table to jump. Go to Sidoni, go to the Longevity Tribe and get those mature blood orchids. This is a great opportunity for us. Its discovery is no less significant than the birth of nuclear weapons. It will definitely go down in history. Hearing this, everyone became excited and responded fervently. Their battle intent overflowed and their blood boiled and burned. Even if they had become level X paranormals, they would not be able to reach the level of gods, let alone be immortal. Some of the side effects might even shorten their lifespan. It could be said that the immortal Ascension Blood Arrow Orchid was a fatal temptation that they could not resist. But as far as I know, Sidonia is very chaotic. The European Union and Russia have supported warlords. Wuxia has mining companies there, and I think they will all pay attention to the mature blood orchid. Only the professor maintained a rare calmness as he analyzed with a frown. As soon as he said that, everyone calmed down. Yes. Sidonia's warlords had been divided for a long time, and there were political forces in all countries. It was impossible that they would not pay attention to the blood orchid. When the time came, Russia's winter soldiers, Europe's pantheon, and other powerhouses would gather. It would definitely be a bloody battle. Russia and Europe have many powerhouse organizations and there are warlords as agents. We do need to pay special attention to them. But Wuxia only has a mining company called Gold Energy and a security team. There is nothing to worry about at all. Green Devil looked at the information and snorted disdainfully. No matter what, we must get the blood orchid. The Pentagon's instructions are to do whatever it takes. General Kane's eyes were firm as he made the final decision. But we have to abide by international conventions. Conventional troops can't enter, so this time, Blue Storm will execute it. Soldiers, you are the sharpest force of the United States of America. You are the guardians of the country and you are also the pioneers of the territory. Let the stars and stripes fly on Sidonia's land. The blood orchid is about to mature. The professor's guess was right. Almost all the tycoons of the Dark World got the picture at the same time. Let's go to Sidonia. The blood orchid is even more magical than the princess flower on Mount Everest. You only need to get one petal to become a peerless powerhouse. Get one petal and you can definitely dominate the world, get on the dark roll and be on par with Kong Techu. For a moment, all the overlords turned their attention to Africa, the poor island country that crossed the equator and floated in the Atlantic Ocean. As for Zhang Tian, he was completely unaware of this. A few days before he left, something happened in Yanjin. In the end, Song Shuangyan was taken away by a senior brother of the Mount Shu sword sect and officially joined the Immerse sword sect. Before she left, she told the Song family not to mess with Kong Techu. She said that she would settle the score with Kong Techu herself. Another big news was that Yi Zhantian's daughter Yi Karen had joined the Kunlun sect, which shocked many people. The Kunlun sect was the origin of Taoism. It was very strict and mysterious when it came to selecting disciples. Few people knew about it and it was called the unknown place. In the past 100 years, Yi Tianren was the only one who walked in the secular world. However, he alone had suppressed Wuxia for decades. Also, many companies under the Heavenly Alliance had set up shop in Yanjin and officially started the process of internationalization. Beautiful Sky had spent 2 billion yuan to acquire 51% of the shares of Glamorous International, which had caused an uproar in the capital market. However, these were not worth mentioning to Zhang Tian. He had already embarked on the journey to Sidonia with Huang Linger and Zhang Qianlei. At this time, Zhang Tian had been cultivating in the 2 dragon marrow spirit veins in the Shuangqing villa of the Yuhua villa for more than 10 days. He had taken a lot of pills made of winchim grass and his injuries had completely healed. Both his body and cultivation had reached the peak state since his rebirth. He even felt that he was only a step away from level 7 of qi refinement. This was also the result of the battle with Zhang Qianlei that had strengthened his body and qi. Whoosh! The private plane roared in the sky and its destination was the transit station, Brazzaville, the capital of the Congo. Zhang Tian sat in the plane and read The Legend of the Swordsman of Mount Shu, by Huanzhu Lord. Huang Linger sat cross-legged on the leather seat and breathed in and out. She looked ethereal and dignified. Beside him, Heaven's equal monkey was holding a peach and eating it with relish. Its juices splattered everywhere. Zhang Qianlei had stabilized his appearance as a young man in the immortality realm and was dressed in a green Taoist robe. In fact, this was also the result of the battle with Zhang Tian that had strengthened his cultivation. However, this guy was stubborn and would never admit it. He said with certainty that he had always been in the immortality realm and that he usually showed his old appearance in order to pretend to be weak. Looking at the clouds outside the porthole, Zhang Qianlei said as if nothing had happened, Zhang Tian, during the battle that day, the black thing that flew very fast, Was it the legendary flying sword? What do you think? Zhang Tian turned a page and said without looking up. When will you lend it to me to play with? Zhang Qianlei said excitedly, I think that thing seems to be flying faster than a plane. You're not going to be my servant, so why should I lend it to you? Zhang Tian said with a smirk like a weird uncle who was tempting children with lollipops. Zhang Tian, if you continue to be like this, I'll get angry with you. Zhang Qianlei's old face reddened as he anxiously said, You're right. I'm even older than old Master Jiang Chongqing. Do you know how to respect the old and cherish the young? Haha, Zhang Qianlei, you're too young. Zhang Tian smiled and said, Let me tell you, you're not even qualified to be my You have to respect the old and love the young. Call me grandpa. Lastling, or look at how arrogant your husband is. He didn't care at all. He's going to die a horrible death. Although Zhang Qianlei had a bad temper, his verbal skills were actually average. He didn't dare to fight on the plane. Before the plane took off, Zhang Tian warned him. His lightning bolt would interfere with the plane's electronic equipment, and the plane might even crash. At that time, Zhang Tian would not save him. Zhang Qianlei believed that Zhang Tian would definitely do it. He didn't have a flying sword, and he didn't know if he would die if he fell from a height of 10,000 meters. Grandpa Zhang, if you don't like me, you can fight with him, Huang Linger said with a chuckle. This little girl's temperament is quite similar to that of Amei's ancestor with boundless sword intent. Zhang Qianlei sized up Huang Linger. His eyes shone brightly as he said, Your foundation is not far from Yi Karen's. It's a pity that you don't learn swordsmanship. Kong Teichu is leading you astray. If you change your mind one day, I'll take you to learn swordsmanship. Master Lei, my cultivation is similar to that of spells. You're an academic. How can you belittle yourself and respect martial arts and suppress Tao? Huang Linger smiled sweetly and said, Besides, Zhang Tian also knows swordsmanship. He might not be worse than Amei. That's right. When I fought with you, I didn't use a flying sword from beginning to end. Otherwise, how could you still be alive? Zhang Tian raised his eyelids and interjected. Zhang Qianlei was dealt a heavy blow. He wanted to cry but had no tears. He had been in this world for a century, but when he met this freak who was proficient in all methods, he was suppressed everywhere. Zhang Tian suddenly put down the book and said seriously, Master Lei, have you fought with Yi Tianren before? We sparred when we were young. That turbulent era was also the last prosperity of Huaxia's martial arts and spell world. Could be said that all the powerhouses and grandmasters came out. It was like a firework in full bloom, exploding with a bang, leaving behind the last brilliance, and then it was gone. Zhang Qianlei saw that he was serious and said indifferently, Why are you asking this? He's hiding now. Who won? Zhang Tian asked curiously. Chapter 574. Let's call it a draw, Zhang Qianlei blushed. Then he looked at Zhang Tian's teasing eyes and shouted angrily, Why are you looking at me like that? Do you think I'm lying? If I lost with that freak's ruthlessness, would I still be alive to talk to you? You're quite likable. I can't bear to kill you even if I beat you. Baby Qianlei. Are you praising me or scolding me? Zhang Qianlei was so angry that his hair was about to stand on end. What cultivation level do you think Yi Tianren should be at now? Zhang Tian asked curiously. It's hard to say. It's not strange for him to become a human immortal. Zhang Qianlei sighed and said, This person's perception is astonishing. He has great wisdom, perseverance, and great opportunities. According to you, I'm a talented person with a lightning-type foundation. I was also born in the Celestial Master sect of Mount Longhu. My father was the last Celestial Master in the late Qing dynasty. My luck is good, but I think his luck is better than mine. Don't compare innate conditions. Why don't you say that others are smarter and have more perseverance than you? Jiang Tian asked with a smile. Zhang Qianlei ignored the boring teasing and snorted coldly. This person is a Kunlun successor and was once the world wayfarer of Kunlun. Kunlun cultivates the lineage of Chan school. They pay attention to one's foundation and background. They don't take in disciples randomly. But what did Yi Tianren do before? He robbed and killed countless people, but he was chosen by the Kunlun sect master and taken in as his last disciple. If this isn't a great opportunity, then what is? Or maybe it's a chaotic world. Why do we need such a powerful person to support the rivers and mountains? Jiang Tian thought deeply. Supporting the rivers and mountains, my ass. Those people from Kunlun and Shu Mountain are not human. They only want to pursue the Tao. Zhang Qianlei said disdainfully. In their eyes, we are just ants and dust, not worth mentioning. They won't come out even if we break the sky in the mortal world. Do you think Hao Taichong didn't come out to suppress you after you killed Hao Hongmei? Wrong, little Tiantian. He thinks that you are not worthy of his attention. Hao Hongmei's death was not worth disturbing his cultivation. They don't have much human emotion left. Immortal state cultivators can look down on the world with their own strength. For example, Wang Zhongyan is called the Imperial Preceptor in Singapore, and Miyamoto Geniki is on the same level as the Emperor. These worldly achievements are naturally unimaginable in the eyes of ordinary people, but in their eyes, they are merely chasing after the stench. I don't understand your cultivation system, but I can be sure that your combat power is not strong enough to challenge a human immortal. In fact, there is still a gap. Not to mention the sect leaders of Kunlun and Zhou Xian, even Yi Tianren was still a far cry away. Good luck to you. I hope you'll be able to gain something from this treasure hunt and break through a few times as soon as possible. As he spoke up to hear, he took joy in Qianxi's misfortune. Is Yi Tianren really that powerful? So much stronger than you? Jiang Tian teased. Zhang Qianlei suffered another blow and said gloomily, Young man, you don't have good perception. I am a heavenly master appointed by Baldi Jiang, representing the old forces. If it weren't for the protection of the Lu and Song families, I would have been killed by the cannons. With an aggrieved expression he said, But who is Heavenly Yi? The founder of the Huaxiaolong formation is supported by the government. I live under the roof of the Song family and don't even have the chance to come out. Just thinking about it makes me sullen. What about him? He has dominated Huaxia for half a century and wiped out all the transcendental forces. At the same time, he has also plundered and accumulated a lot of treasures. He has dug up the Taoist scriptures of Huaxia for thousands of years. Do you know how deep his accumulation is? Do you know how many treasures he has? Have you ever thought about what he has been doing all these years? He must have dug up some treasures and is absorbing and refining them. What a bandit. He is so lucky. Jiang Tian pondered for a while and nodded. Zhang Qianlei's words were not alarmist. It was just like when he went to Mount Everest to look for the D flower. But he encountered the fallen sacred battle ape Qi Aoxing and obtained Little Black's flying sword and other Dharma artifacts, which greatly increased his strength. Yi Tianren was the same. Moreover, after a century of accumulation, he might have studied the earth thoroughly. That was not something he could compare to. This person has the most orthodox Tao, the most profound cultivation techniques, the deepest accumulation and the most fortuitous opportunities. Zhang Qianlei said enviously, If someone like him doesn't become an immortal, who else can? At that moment, Lin Fengmian walked in from the front cabin door and said with a smile, The plane is about to land. Han Junfeng, welcome. After the plane landed, they walked out of the cabin door and immediately felt hot. They were near the equator and had a tropical climate. The sun was scorching and the temperature was very high. It was as if they had walked from the coldest winter to the hottest summer. Outside the airport, Han Junfeng had been waiting for a long time. Master Kong, you're here. Han Junfeng was the founder of the Jining Group, a vice minister of the central government. His family was very powerful. Behind him stood a row of executives of the Jining Group. They were all in suits and white shirts. A row of Mercedes-Benz and BMW were parked in front of them. When they saw Jiang Tian come out, they bowed and greeted him. There were even a few Congolese senior officials. Junfeng asked them to leave. I don't like this kind of show. Jiang Tian frowned. Yes, Master Kong. Han Junfeng's face was filled with fear. He waved his hand and the executives standing behind him quickly got into the car and left. In the end there was only a silver Bentley left. A secretary opened the car door for him. Jiang Tian and the others sat down and the Bentley drove into the city like a silver dragon. Master Kong, this is the security director of the Sidoni branch of the Jinan Group. Han Junfeng pointed at a young man in the opposite seat and said. They were the ones who entered the Xianxia tribe and took the picture. More than a dozen security guards are dead and he is the only one left. If you have any questions just ask him. Han Junfeng was more agile. He knew what Jiang Tian was concerned about and directly brought him here. What's your name? Jiang Tian looked at the young man. The young man was very thin and unshaven but his bones were thick. His fists and right thumb were full of calluses. Could be seen that he should have been trained. Maybe he was a retired soldier. It must be known that Sidoni was at war. There were several warlords who were not like the domestic security companies facing small thieves. They were armed with modern weapons and killed without blinking. Mr. Jiang, my name is Qin Jihao. The young man's eyes were dull. He did not respond to Jiang Tian's question. He only reacted when Han Junfeng poked his arm. Don't be afraid. Jiang Tian smiled kindly and gave him a cigarette. Qin Jihao quickly took it with both hands. Jiang Tian lit it for him and said, How did you find the blood orchid? Why are you the only one who came back? What did you encounter? Qin Jihao trembled as he smoked. Jiang Tian's calm eyes seemed to give him the power to calm down. Sidoni is rich in mineral resources, but it was once a British colony and became independent in the 1950s. Its economic and social development is very backward, and its mineral resources are not developed enough. It has always been cheaper. Gold Energy Group is a state-owned enterprise that has just been established. It needs to have good results. The central enterprises of energy and mineral resources are conquering overseas. The markets of Russia and Australia have been occupied by them. We can only make use of the opportunity to enter Africa, including a chaotic country like Sidoni. So, we sent a geological team to look for mines here and we were the guards. Due to the outbreak of a tropical storm, dozens of us walked continuously in the forest for 3 days and 3 nights. We lost our maps and positioning devices. Only then did we accidentally enter the Xianxia tribe and see the blood-red orchid. Otherwise we would not have gone in. Seeing that Jiang Tian was a little puzzled, Han Junfeng quickly explained. Because it is in the border area between the government forces and the rebels, there are often wars and it is very unsafe. Usually, our branch is stationed in the area occupied by the government forces. Jiang Tian nodded. Qin Jihao said, At that time when we saw the flower under the waterfall, we thought we had found a treasure. It glowed and emitted a faint mist. When we smelled it we felt relaxed and comfortable. The tiredness and hunger of several days of continuous trekking disappeared in an instant. At that time we also judged that we had walked to the Xianxia tribe. We had already guessed that it was the magical flower. However, when he said this, a deep fear appeared on Qin Jihao's face. His body trembled and he said in a trembling voice, At that time we were all ecstatic, but at that time we met a group of monsters. What kind of monsters? Jiang Tian's eyes were fixed. Han Junfeng also said, You have to be more specific. I couldn't see clearly. Qin Jihao said with a wry smile, At that time a tropical storm broke out, heavy rain poured, lightning flashed and thunder roared. Most of our torches and searchlights were lost and they were too fast. What we can be sure of is that it was a group of huge flying birds, bigger than any bird I have ever seen. No, it should be said that they were bigger than any bird recorded in biology. Their wings were 7 or 8 meters long. One of them could catch a living person. Our mining equipment was lost but the guns were still there. We had submachine guns and shotguns but they were useless. Qin Jihao showed a deep fear and said in a trembling voice, The closest was a bird that was only 7 or 8 meters away from me. I hit it with a shotgun making a string of sparks but it was fine. In the end it was the deputy captain of the security team who blocked those strange birds with a gun, giving me a chance to escape. Speaking of this, big drops of tears rolled down his face and he grabbed his hair and said, I was useless. At that time, in order to cover me, Zhao Taizhu took a submachine gun and faced those big birds, but I took the camera and selfishly ran away. I didn't do my duty as the captain. Looking at the sobbing Qin Jihao, Jiang Tian shook his head helplessly. Qin Jihao should also be a very experienced security personnel, but when encountering this kind of monster, there was no way he could do anything. Perhaps he had been tormented by guilt and fear for a long time, so much so that he had become so thin and emaciated. Chapter 575. Beside him, Han Junfeng said solemnly, "Master Kong, these strange birds are still very scary. I've been paying attention to this Xianxia tribe for a long time. They're at the border between the government and the rebels, but for more than 10 years, the rebels and the government have not dared to provoke them. You can see how scary they are." Lin Fengmian also said nervously, "Also, I heard that other than these strange birds, they have other monsters that can even be called gods." "Don't worry." Jiang Tian patted Qitian's head and smiled disdainfully. "No matter how strong these monsters are, they're just food for Qitian. They're not worth mentioning at all. I'm worrying too much." "We're relieved that Master Kong said so." Lin Fengmian slapped his thigh and laughed heartily. He had already gotten the photos and location, but he had not dared to go there. Obviously he was afraid. However, Jiang Tian was much stronger than him. He had single-handedly defeated a 28-man mixed army in Japan. No matter how strong those monsters were, how could they be stronger than modern artillery, tanks and fighter jets? The group rested for a day and a night in the capital of Congo. The next day they set off for Sidoni. Jiang Tian's private plane had already refueled and returned. Sidoni was economically and socially backward and did not have a modern airport. Helicopters were more convenient. Because Lin Fengmian already knew the exact location of the Xianxia tribe, and Sidoni had some Jin Ning staff to lead the way, they did not bring Han Junfeng and Qin Zhihao. They followed Jiang Tian's private plane back to Wuxia. "Our helicopter will first arrive at the capital of Sidoni, San Juan. We'll refuel there and go straight to the Xianxia tribe," Lin Fengmian explained in the helicopter. The flight would take 4 hours. Sidoni was an island country near the equator in the Pacific Ocean on the west side of Africa. The airport in the capital, San Juan, felt like a 3rd or 4th-tier city bus station in China. The airport was empty and there were few passengers. There were only a few people sitting on plastic chairs. There were no security checkpoints or luggage passageways. Han Junfeng had great influence in Africa. In Congo he had helped Jiang Tian and Lin Fengmian get fake passports. Lin Fengmian had considered everything thoroughly. Sidoni's government was a puppet supported by Britain and the European Union. As for people like Jiang Tian, the European Union might have already investigated him thoroughly. If the United Kingdom found out, they might also send people over to snatch the treasure. Although the terminal was air-conditioned, Huang Linger, who was wearing a casual sweater, still felt a little uncomfortable. However, the customs officers were not surprised. They casually stamped their passports and let them go. In the duty-free shop at the airport, Jiang Tian and the others bought summer clothes. Cotton t-shirts, shorts, cotton socks, high-top jungle boots and a sun hat. Jiang Tian and the others realized that the jewels from their country were very popular here. At this time, another executive of the Sidoni branch of the Gold Ning Group came to greet them and brought some bad news. Now, several resistance forces and rebel forces had occupied a large number of areas that originally belonged to the government forces. Even the capital, San Juan, was in danger. Helicopters could not pass through. Because the warlords saw that it was not a helicopter that they did not know, they beat it up without saying a word. Previously, a transport plane of the Gold Ning Group was shot down by them and several technicians were killed. Out of the airport, a smoky road led directly to the capital, San Juan. Bored black drivers gathered together to play cards. This was probably the bus station of the San Juan International Airport. Sitting in a Land Rover of the Gold Ning Group and driving into the city, one could see lush trees, black children running around and African women in colorful clothes walking around with buckets on their heads. The sky was dazzling blue, and the hot sun made one's skin burn. It was an exotic scene. "Master Kong, do we go there ourselves or hire a few local guides?" Lin Fengmian asked. "Although we have a map and I know the location of the Xianxia tribe, Sidoni's terrain is complicated. There are many ravines and mountains and there are few buildings in the tropical rainforest. It's easy to get lost. Also, the person I'm looking for runs a few routes in Sidoni. The government forces and rebel forces have to give him some face." "Okay, let's look for him." Jiang Tian nodded. Lin Fengmian answered and started to make a call. He was a martial arts tycoon in Yanjin and controlled the mining and energy industries. His influence spread across the world. Although he was based in Yanjin, he had friends all over the world. Also, he had been to Sidonia a few times to find out about the Immortal Ascension Blood Arrow Orchid, so he knew some local tyrants. In a manor 10 kilometers away from the capital airport, he found a man called Mulligan. He knocked on the door and a skinny black kid in shorts opened the door. He blinked his big eyes and asked in English, "Who are you looking for?" "We're looking for Mr. Mulligan." Zhang Tian patted his head and asked, "What's your name?" "My name is Arthur. Please come in." The black kid led them in obediently. There were a few small helicopters and pickup trucks parked under the old canopy that served as a garage and airplane hangar. The helicopter engine was on the ground, waiting to be repaired. Wrenches and screwdrivers were scattered all over the ground. Under the canopy, a dark-skinned man was snoring on a recliner with a bottle of alcohol in his arms. His whole body was filled with the smell of rum. In his open shirt, his dark skin and a big gold necklace as thick as a thumb shone under the tropical sun. A large hunting dog lay at his feet, looking at the newcomers warily. There were a few burly men in camouflage around him. Some of them were playing cards on the old table with submachine guns on their legs. There were also a few barbecuing in the charcoal fire in a gasoline barrel. It was unknown whether they were crocodiles or something else. "Old Man Mulligan, we have guests." The black kid, Arthur, said in fluent English. The black burly man continued to snore, but he magically lifted his leg and kicked Arthur to the ground. Arthur was kicked more than 3 meters away. He got up and stood to the side with a frightened look in his eyes, but he did not make a sound. Clearly he was used to these beatings. Huang Linger hurriedly helped Arthur up and stuffed a lollipop into his hands. Arthur quickly unwrapped it and stuffed it into his mouth, saying gratefully in a soft voice, "Thank you." Zhang Tian picked up a wrench casually and knocked on the metal table. With a bang, the metal table cracked and the hunting dog barked in fear. The burly men who were playing cards and barbecuing immediately grabbed their pistols and pointed at Zhang Tian and the others, cursing angrily. Mulligan also opened his eyes and looked at the crowd in confusion. "Mr. Mulligan, I'm Bruce Lin." Lin Fingmian chuckled and said in choppy English, shaking hands with the other party. "Mr. Lin, is there anything I can help you with? I didn't expect you to come to the godforsaken Sidonia." Mulligan recognized Lin Fingmian and stood up. He laughed and punched Lin Fingmian's shoulder heavily. Lin Fingmian was a martial arts grandmaster and someone at the peak of the transcendent state, but he was forced to take a step back by Mulligan. Zhang Tian was secretly surprised. He scanned with his divine sense and found that although this person did not have any aura, his blood essence was abnormally strong and his body was as strong as a mixed martial arts master. He should be a physical awakened. Lin Fingmian introduced, "This is Mulligan. He used to be a mercenary king in the Dark World and his code name was Black Bear. He had fought with the United States Marine Corps before and had managed to escape. When he returned to his hometown Sidonia was very chaotic. Qin Jihao and the others alone could not guarantee his safety, so he had hired them before. I've seen him twice. This man is very popular in Sidonia because he has been in the employ of the government and of the rebels, and everybody gives him some respect here. Sometimes his words are more effective than the president. Here's the thing. I heard that you operate a few domestic flights in Sidonia. One of them goes to Dragon Rocky City near the Changsho tribe. Can you take us there?" Zhang Tian asked in fluent English. Unlike Lin Fingmian, he emphasized the authentic American accent. "Listen, yellow skin, I don't want to go to Dragon Rocky City anymore. They have completely lost their minds. Those bastards almost shot down my helicopter, so you'd better find someone else." Mulligan flatly refused without even thinking about it. Lin Fingmian said patiently, "Mulligan, but we really have an urgent matter. I will pay a high price." "Bruce Lin, I know you yellow monkeys are very rich, but I don't buy it." The rude Mulligan did not give him face at all. Instead he looked at the Winchester on the wall and threatened. "Please leave my territory. Otherwise, I will use my precious flowers to receive you." Lin Fingmian was shocked and then said angrily, "Mulligan, you don't have to give me face, but please show some respect to Mr. Jiang. He is one of the top 3 overlords on the Dark Roll, Kong Teichu." "Kong Teichu? Who is that?" Mulligan looked at Zhang Tian with drunken eyes and said disdainfully, "Sorry, I have never heard of him. Are you kidding me? The top 3 on the Dark Roll are Zeus and his gang. Since when is there a yellow monkey? We've now." Hearing this, Zhang Tian shook his head in disappointment. He slapped him 3 meters away and stuck him on the wall like a painting. Then an invisible chi grabbed his throat and said coldly, "Brother Chen, you're so arrogant. Listen up, you old drunkard. I'm going to Longyan City right now. If you son of a bitch dare to say no, I'll cut your liver into pieces and feed it to your black dog Jennifer. Also, I am from Wuxia, not a yellow monkey. Let him go, we are going to shoot." Around them, 8 brawny men raised their guns and fired at Zhang Tian. "Put down your guns." Seeing this, Huang Linger was shocked. She subconsciously raised her hand and used the divine withering technique, twine and wood thorn. Bang! Bang! A few green vines that were originally lying on the wall suddenly shot out. The vines pierced through the brawny men's palms and blood gushed out. Bang! 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 Even a few bullets that were shot out were knocked away by him. One of the brawny men was wrapped in a vine the size of a thumb and thrown 8 meters away. Magic? Goddess! When the mercenaries saw this scene, they were so shocked that they broke out in a cold sweat. They forgot about the pain and forgot to stop the bleeding. They just looked at the beautiful girl in shock, dumbstruck. Chapter 576. This woman could turn the weak vines into the sharpest weapon that could even deflect bullets. Did that mean that she could also penetrate their chests and heads? Thinking of this, the 7 or 8 brave and ruthless mercenaries no longer dared to move. Arthur widened his watery eyes and said in disbelief, "You're right. She must be like the gods of the Xianxia tribe but prettier than them." At this moment Ma Ligan's throat was choked by an invisible palm. His eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets. Suddenly he roared and stomped his feet on the ground, causing the cement floor to crumble. The muscles on his body suddenly exploded. His dragon-like muscles bulged as if they were cast from black iron. Unfortunately, no matter how hard he tried, he still couldn't break free. "Get out." Then Zhang Tian pushed gently with his right hand. With a loud boom, Molly Jen broke through the thick wall and fell out of the yard in a cloud of dust and scattered bricks. "Trash. If you weren't Lin Fingyan's old friend, I would have broken your neck." Zhang Tian sat on the sofa and opened an unopened bottle of rum. He poured himself a cup and took a sip as he leisurely said. Molly Jen wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and got up. He walked into the yard and looked at Zhang Tian in disbelief. "Molly Jen, don't be rash. I told you he is the 3rd overlord on the dark roll and the most powerful fighter in Wuxia. You are no match for him." Lin Fingyan smiled bitterly as if Molly Jen was a retard. Malajan's eyes flashed with fear. He had already felt how powerful Zhang Tian was. He could even say that Zhang Tian was like a toy to him. But he still looked at Lin Fingyan and asked unwillingly, "Bruce Lin, who is he? Why have I never heard of him?" "You black bear, you've drunk so much rum that you've ruined your brain. Haven't you heard of these big events?" Lin Fingyan said helplessly. "Grandmaster Jiang once defeated the 28th Mixed Army and Air Force Brigade in Japan and destroyed hundreds of tanks and armored vehicles. So it's him." When Ma Ligan heard this, his entire body trembled and his eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets. He had actually heard of the name Kong Techu. But the Chinese name was difficult for them to pronounce. In the dark world, they usually used Jiang for short. For a moment, he couldn't even connect the casual-looking young man in front of him with the famous demon king of the dark world. He was a mercenary and of course knew how terrifying the modern army was. Even if he was facing dozens of Marines, he would still have to avoid them and wouldn't dare to fight them head-on. What's more, one person could defeat tens of thousands of modern soldiers equipped with helicopters, tanks, and other heavy weapons. It was like a myth. "Master Kong, I admire you." Malajan's eyes. Malajan's eyes. The other mercenaries also looked solemn. Their eyes were full of respect. They closed their legs and raised their right hand to their eyebrows. They gave a standard military salute to Zhang Tian. Zhang Tian just nodded. Lin Fingyan took out a map and opened it on the table. "We are going to a waterfall in the Longevity tribe. Do you think it's better to take a helicopter or an off-road vehicle?" "You guys are going to the Longevity tribe too?" Malajan's face flashed with a strange look. "A few groups of people came recently. They are all going to the Longevity tribe. Could the news have been leaked?" Zhang Tian frowned. "A lot of people came. Some are from the United Kingdom, some are from the Middle East, and some are from the United States." Molly Jen shook his head and said, "They even have a picture of a red flower. It looks like a big orchid." It's super big, as tall as a person. He squinted his eyes and said, although they are disguised as technicians or tourists, I can feel their bloodthirsty aura. Many of them are super soldiers. Is this the picture? Lin Fengmian took out the picture and asked with a frown. That's right. Molly Jen nodded. It seems that the news has been leaked. Lin Fengmian's face became serious. He called Han Junfeng and asked him to verify. The news came back. It turned out that after Qin Ji Hao escaped from the Longevity tribe, he lost all his communication equipment and dry food supplies. He had nothing on him and could only walk to the Gold Energy Group's base. But he was hundreds of kilometers away and there were wild beasts everywhere in the primitive jungle. Qin Ji Hao had no choice but to sell the news to the multinational companies and even the warlords. He exchanged for cars, weapons, and supplies before returning to the Gold Energy Group's base. It seems that we are not the only ones who are eyeing this strange flower. Master Kong, we have to hurry. Don't let others take the lead. It might be a fierce battle. Lin Fengmian's face was very serious. With me, Zhang Qianlei, there is no need to be afraid of these small fries. Zhang Qianlei rolled his eyes. Who is he? Molly Jen asked curiously. The last celestial master of Wuxia, Master Zhang Qianlei of the Celestial Master sect of Dragon Tiger Mountain. Haven't you heard of him? Lin Fengmian kept winking at Molly Jen, wanting to show him the respect he deserved. Never heard of him. Molly Jen was a simple and honest person. He shook his head like a rattledrum and said in broken Chinese, with Master Kong here, when will it be his turn? Zhang Qianlei was so shocked that he wanted to cry. But to prevent any accidents from happening, let's set off now. Jiang Tian stood up. Molly Jen quickly took out his satellite phone and called a few warlords. He said that one of his helicopters was going to pass by their territory and asked them not to open fire. Molly Jen seemed to be a little afraid of the Longevity tribe and was unwilling to follow. When Lin Fengmian said that he needed to lead the way, Molly Jen pulled the black child, Arthur, and said, Arthur is my servant, but he is also a child of the K tribe. The K tribe is only a few kilometers away from the Longevity tribe. Let him lead the way. Jiang Tian bent down and looked at Arthur and asked gently, Are you willing to lead the way for us? Arthur had a good impression of Jiang Tian and the others. He nodded heavily and said, I'm willing, of course I'm willing. A helicopter painted with the image of a huge black bear flew into the sky. Jiang Tian and the others sat quietly in the cabin, breathing in and out. I feel that although Sidoni has been fighting for a long time, the spirit chi is still very abundant. Huang Linger was focused on meditation and could not help but sigh. This place is actually not bad. Jiang Tian looked down. As far as the eye could see, there was a lush virgin forest. The spirit chi was indeed much more abundant than in the city. It was almost 1/10 of the spirit chi of a cultivation planet. Especially the wood element chi was very abundant, and it was very convenient to use wood element techniques. However, Zhang Qianlei's thunder art would probably not be able to unleash 100% of its power. However, Jiang Tian did not mind. Zhang Qianlei could use thunder element techniques in the dead of winter. The environment here was at least better than the peak of Mount Yen. Only a place like this can give birth to the immortal Ascension Blood Arrow Orchid. Jiang Tian's gaze was deep as he sighed in his heart. The immortal Ascension Blood Arrow Orchid was an upper-grade spiritual herb. If he consumed it, he would immediately advance to the 7th level of Qi refinement and step into the late stage of Qi refinement. The effect of an upper-grade spiritual herb was so domineering. Honorable sir, we have reached the battlefield. We really do not dare to take the risk. When the helicopter flew for more than 100 kilometers, the pilot was unwilling to go forward. Jiang Tian also saw it. A few kilometers away, the two armies were already facing each other. The sound of artillery fire and the faint sound of gunfire could be heard. A few small towns were burning in flames and black smoke rose into the sky. How far are we from the Longevity tribe? Lin Fengmian asked. If we walk, it might take a day. There are still more than 30 kilometers to go. Head southwest. Little Arthur held the map and gestured with his choppy Chinese to point out their current location. We have to find a place to land. Lin Fengmian said. I know there is a medical team nearby. The eyes of the executive of the Gold Ning Group brightened. It's the medical team from Wuxia. There should be a helicopter airport there. Also, we have a lot of medicine in the helicopter, which is what they are lacking. If we give it to them, they will definitely lend us their vehicles. I know that medical team. They have healed many people in various tribes. They used to live in our tribe. Little Arthur gave a thumbs up. Zhang Tian said, okay, then let's land at the medical team's base first. We will walk or take a car there. 10 minutes later, the helicopter landed at a campsite that was made up of simple houses and tents. It slowly landed in the open space. Zhang Tian found that there were many corpses on the roadside 1 kilometer away from the camp. Judging from their clothes, they should be soldiers of the government. The classic camouflage uniform was soaked in blood. The bodies were swollen and looked like giants. Green flies were densely packed on them. When the black shadow of the helicopter passed by, it flew up like a black fog. Who are you? When Zhang Tian and the others walked out of the cabin, a middle-aged man with fair skin wearing a white coat came over and asked vigilantly. Oh, we are from the Goldening Group. We want to go to the Xianxia tribe. We want to borrow your airport and vehicles. The executive of the Goldening Group was called Lu Qua. He shook hands with the doctor and said with a smile, how should I address you? Oh, my name is Ma Mingyang. I am the deputy director of the medical team in Africa. The doctor smiled a little stiffly as if he did not welcome them. He quickly said, hurry up and leave with your helicopter. The rebels and government forces on both sides are fighting each other. They will be very angry when they see a helicopter. Luqua said, I understand. This is Maligan's helicopter. He has spoken to the various armies. There are also some medicine. Hurry up and move it down. Medicine? Thank you. Ma Mingyang's face was filled with joy. He quickly asked people to move the medicine. Hearing that there was medicine coming, the entire medical team was jubilant. They all ran out of the camp to get the medicine. The economy here was backward and there was a lack of medicine. All kinds of plagues and diseases were rampant. Coupled with the years of civil war, transportation was not smooth and there were many wounded soldiers. Even the simplest anti-inflammatory medicine was scarce. Chapter 577. Ma Mingyang immediately looked at Zhang Tian in a new light. His attitude became better and he introduced them to Zhang Tian enthusiastically. We are a medical team funded by the International Red Cross. We have been in Sidonie for 5 or 6 years. We have performed more than 30,000 operations and distributed medicine worth more than $2 million. Even the International Health Organization has praised us. His tone was a little arrogant and proud. It was no wonder. In such a place where the flames of war rained down, it was indeed something to be proud of for a powerless intellectual to be able to endure for so long. He could vaguely see that Zhang Tian's position in this group of people should be the highest. He smiled and asked, Mr. Jiang, why did you suddenly come to Sidonie and go to the Xianxia tribe? It is a very barbaric tribe and the journey is very dangerous. In his opinion, Zhang Tian was just a rich young master. He didn't know what was wrong with his brain, but he came to Sidonie, which was a war-torn place. How could a rich young master like him know the hardships of the people? He is the crown prince of the Medicine King Group, Zhang Tian. The Medicine King Group also takes charity very seriously. Before the Spring Festival, they set up a Medicine King Charity Foundation to investigate the health of Sidonie and see if they can provide some help. Lin Fengmian casually made up a story. There was no need to reveal the secret of finding licorice roots to these irrelevant people. But the Medicine King Group's charity foundation is already in operation? Zhang Tian was a little surprised. Zhang Tian's grandfather had talked about the charity foundation more than once to Zhang Tian. However, Zhang Tian was not in the mood to do this. At that time he only cared about trampling on the Zhang family and fighting with the Lu and Song families. It was probably his grandfather who asked Yi Ziwei to do it. Thinking of this, Zhang Tian felt a little guilty. His grandfather must be very dissatisfied. So you are the descendant of the Medicine King Zhang family. A beautiful nurse walked over and looked at Zhang Tian with admiration. Are you Zhang Tian? It's me. Do we know each other? Zhang Tian looked at her in surprise. It's really you. My idol. My idol. The young nurse jumped up and down. She was so excited that her face flushed. What idol? I don't sing or act and I'm not a celebrity. Zhang Tian awkwardly rubbed his nose. What's so good about being a celebrity? You definitely don't know me, but I know you. The young nurse's clear and beautiful eyes sparkled as she looked at Zhang Tian with a face full of admiration. My name is Yuan Kursen and I'm the head nurse of the medical team. Before the Spring Festival, the Medicine King Charity Foundation distributed the first batch of donations. Our medical team also applied. In order to provide information, I returned to China once and met Grandpa Jiang Chongqing. He said that you're the great divine Dr. Jiang that defeated TKM. Furthermore, the prescription of the Medicine King Group was invented by you. The Medicine King Group also gave the medical team some of your company's products. We used them in Sidoni and the effect was really good. You're simply too amazing. Your Medicine King Group is also very good. Among all the listed companies in the country, you guys are the ones who support charity the most. The first batch of donations is already 1 billion. So that's the case. Something that we should do. Jiang Tian faintly smiled as he did not take it to heart. At this moment, little Arthur also ran over and pulled on Yuan Kursen's sleeve. Big Sister Kung. Little Arthur. It's you. Yuan Kursen kissed his dark forehead and took out a medicine bottle from her white coat. She poured out a pill and gave it to him. Little Arthur had a sacred expression as he received it, as if he had received a treasure. After eating it, he seemed to have instantly become more energetic and happily jumped around at the side. You gave him vitamins, right? Jiang Tian asked in astonishment. That's right. Hehe. It's equivalent to a placebo. Yuan Kursen placed her hands in her pockets and revealed a mischievous smile. The medicine is given for free by the medical team, and as time passed, they would also like to take 1 or 2 even if they're not sick. Those black people are really cute. Jiang Tian nodded his head. Yuan Kursen's face flashed a trace of seriousness as she said softly, Will you go to the K tribe? Don't go there. Their village was burned down by the army a few days ago. I didn't see any living people there. Jiang Tian calmly looked at the naive little Arthur. Even though he had been cultivating for tens of thousands of years and had been tempered by the flames of war, he could not help but feel a trace of sympathy. He nodded his head and said with a smile, You guys really don't have it easy. How much money did you get from the charity foundation? 5 million. I'll give you 10 million. Jiang Tian directly took out his satellite phone and called Yi Ziwei. 10 million. Young Master Jiang, you're really rich. You're so generous. Yuan Kursen worshipped. Seeing Yuan Kursen worshipping Jiang Tian, Ma Mingyang's eyes flashed a trace of displeasure. However, he concealed it well and said with a smile, Well, Kursen, hurry up and move the medicine. After moving the guests, we still have to go. Okay, Mr. Jiang, you're a good person. Yuan Kursen waved her small fist at Jiang Tian and continued to busy herself. Her smile was like a flower, invincible and full of vitality. After that, Ma Mingyang was too lazy to introduce anything. He could not raise his spirits at all. The Human Medicine King Group had spent 1 billion in charity funds in one go. He had saved a few people, but he could not compare with Jiang Tian. Ma Mingyang and his men lent Jiang Tian and his men an off-road vehicle. Just as they were about to leave, a pickup truck with a heavy machine gun rolled up a cloud of dust and crashed through the red and white stripe, driving straight in. A few black soldiers in camouflage uniforms and red beret jumped out of the car and rushed over. They raised their semi-automatic rifles and surrounded Jiang Tian and his group, shouting at the top of their lungs in their native language. Arthur was so scared that he raised his hands and said, Mr. Jiang, they suspect that we are rebels and want to check our helicopter. Tell them that we are Mulligan's men. The executive of the Goldening Group said. Arthur mumbled a few words in his native language, but the other party pushed him to the ground and rushed into the helicopter. They used the barrel of their gun to lift up the carpet. There were only biscuits, purified water, and medicine underneath. However, they acted as if they were facing a great enemy. They pointed the barrel of their gun at Jiang Tian and shouted angrily. It seemed that the warlords here were too chaotic, and not all of them were convinced by Mulligan's method. Arthur translated, They are asking you where you are transporting the medicine. Are you going to help the rebels? Jiang Tian did not want to pay attention to these barbarians and said indifferently, We are doctors, not soldiers. Arthur translated, and the other party stared at Jiang Tian fiercely. At this time, a shotgun with a sawed-off barrel was discovered under the pilot's seat. The black soldiers were furious and kicked the 2 black pilots to the ground. They ordered them to kneel down and aimed at the back of their heads. The 2 black pilots fell to the ground with their brains splattered. A swarm of flies flew over and laid on the brains and blood. From the beginning of the incident to the execution, it was less than a minute. Suddenly, everyone's face turned pale and no one dared to breathe. Ma Mingyang said in a low voice. Now the K tribe is at war. Several warlords are fighting and they all call each other rebels. Several villages have been massacred. Originally, we contacted the government's Ministry of Health and prepared to evacuate. But the Minister of Health has just been executed and there are rebels on the way. We don't have enough vehicles to support us and we don't have soldiers to protect us. Hearing this, Arthur's face suddenly froze. Big drops of tears rolled down his face, but he clenched his fists and did not say a word. The government soldiers killed people, but they acted as if nothing had happened. They continued to chat and carry medicine, food and mineral water to their pickup trucks. No one dared to say anything. Suddenly, a black soldier pointed at Arthur with a gloomy face and said loudly, "You are from the K tribe." Little Arthur was terrified. His two thin legs were shivering like sieves. The soldiers rushed over and forced little Arthur to kneel down. They wanted to execute him. The medical staff pursed their lips in grief and indignation, but they did not dare to say anything. These soldiers killed people without blinking their eyes. They were too barbaric and they did not dare to confront them. Only Yuan Kursen came forward and pushed the black soldiers and said in English, "He is indeed from the K tribe, but he has never participated in the war. He left the tribe a year ago to work in the capital. You want to die? Don't think that because you are from Wuxia I won't dare to kill you." A black man points a heavy pistol at Yuan Kursen's head. His eyes are wide open and he roars with a thunderous voice. Yuan Kursen's body stiffened and she did not dare to come forward. Tears rolled down her cheeks. In the blur of tears she saw little Arthur was forced to kneel on the ground, and the muzzle was pointed at the back of his head. She closed her eyes. Ma Mingyang and the rest also turned their heads. Stop! A thunderous roar exploded in the air. Several black soldiers were shocked and their heads were buzzing. They turned their heads and were surprised to see a tall and powerful young man coming out. "I told you to stop. Don't you understand what I'm saying?" Zhang Qianlei strode forward, his face full of anger. "Go to hell." They did not understand Zhang Qianlei's Chinese, but they knew it was not something good. One of the soldiers raised his pistol and was about to shoot at Zhang Qianlei. Zhang Qianlei had a fiery temper. He was annoyed when he saw them kill the black pilot, but he did not expect them to kill him so quickly. How could he let them kill him now? Zhang Qianlei's figure flashed and he approached like a ghost and slapped down. Bang! The black soldier's head exploded like a rotten watermelon. Blood, brain and broken bones splashed everywhere. The other soldiers were shocked and quickly turned their muzzles. Zhang Qianlei waved his fists and punched them. Bang! 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 Several soldiers fell into a pool of blood and died. The other two soldiers saw Zhang Qianlei's terrifying strength. They were so scared that they screamed and ran away. Zhang Qianlei slowly picked up the scattered bullet shells on the ground and flicked them with his fingers. Bang! Bang! The two soldiers who had run 100 meters away fell to the ground with blood spurting from the back of their heads. In less than a minute 8 soldiers were killed by him. The comrades in the medical team were scared, but little Arthur shouted excitedly, "Awesome! You are a god." Chapter 578. What an expert! Yuan Kursen looked at Zhang Qianlei in shock, then looked at Jiang Tian with admiration. This person should be young Master Zhang's bodyguard. At this time Ma Mingyang frowned and said, "Mr. Zhang, you shouldn't kill people. It will bring us a lot of trouble." "What do you know? I need your permission to kill people. If you talk nonsense again I'll kill you," Zhang Qianlei said with a murderous look. Jiang Tian said indifferently, "Are you going to let them kill little Arthur? Do you know that the government army will take revenge? They have a camp outside the K tribe. There are thousands of government soldiers there. It will only take half an hour for them to come and kill us." At this time the sound of footsteps came from behind. Everyone looked back and saw several leaders of the medical team. The leader was a middle-aged man in his 40s. His hair and white coat were neat and tidy. He looked like a standard doctor, but Jiang Tian found that he exuded the unique aura of a soldier. He scanned with his divine sense and found that he had the cultivation of iron body. After the leader came over he shook hands with Jiang Tian and said, "Mr. Jiang, I'm Zhu Jiangchao, the leader of the medical team. I've heard a lot about you, divine Dr. Jiang. Jiang Tian nodded. Zhu Jiangchao asked, when you came, was the flight to San Juan interrupted? That's true. We hired a private transport company's plane. It belongs to a man named Mulligan. Jiang Tian said. At this time, Lu Qua, the executive of Goldning Group, put down the satellite phone and said with a trembling voice, Sidoni didn't have a direct flight to Wuxia. Now Boss Han said that 3 hours ago, the airport was destroyed by the rebels. The international flight to San Juan from Congo and Africa was also interrupted. The Goldning Group branch in Sidoni can't retreat and is waiting for rescue. Zhu Jiangchao frowned and thought. Ma Mingyang complained from the side. Captain Zhu, they're the ones who killed the government troops. Zhu Jiangchao stared at him sharply. Ma Mingyang stopped talking. Zhu Jiangchao smiled and said, Mr. Jiang, I hope that we can act together. Can you wait for me to have a simple meeting? All right, I'll wait for you. Jiang Tian glanced at Yuan Kursen. She still left a good impression on Jiang Tian. Otherwise she would have left long ago. With his hands behind his back, Zhu Jiangchao stood tall like a mountain and said in a deep voice, Comrades, the current situation is very complicated and grim. The war situation is also constantly changing. We have already lost contact with the embassy, and it's very likely that a small group of rebels has already occupied the embassy. He said in a deep voice. This morning, the comrades we sent to San Juan to purchase medicine were intercepted by the rebels and executed. All signs indicate that Sidoni is becoming more and more unsafe. The rebels are likely to occupy the capital, San Juan, within a week. Our food, drinking water, and medicine will run out. He glanced at the Goldning Group executive and said, According to Mr. Lu Qua, the route to Congo and other African countries is also suspended. Now whether to withdraw or stay, everyone raise your hands to vote. For a moment, all the medical staff present were talking at once, but they could not come up with a plan. Jiang Tian recalled the content of the map and suddenly turned to Huang Linger, Zhang Qianlei and the others and said, Let's destroy the government camp near Cass Lake first, shall we? It seems that they are on the only way to the Changshu tribe. Zhang Qianlei laughed heartily. Yes, occupy that stronghold. There are weapons, a fortress, and the staff of the Goldning Group as well as all the Chinese, can be saved and protected. Destroy a government camp with thousands of soldiers, are you crazy? Ma Mingyang heard this and his face sank and he said with dissatisfaction, You are really crazy. Do you know that they are supported by the European Union? They have heavy artillery and tanks and their weapons are not bad at all. Don't get us into trouble. Let's go our separate ways, okay? The car is ready, hurry up and leave. Don't cause any more trouble, think of a way to return to San Juan, go to the international airport, and hope that you can escape before the government army notices. I don't agree. Yuan Kursen said firmly. You also know that the government army is likely to take revenge on them. I suggest that we let them stay here and avoid the trouble for a while. At least we are Wuxia people, an official organization, and they won't dare to do anything. We can't stay here any longer. We have to retreat immediately and go back to San Juan Airport. Ma Mingyang looked at Jiang Tian and the others unkindly and said in a deep voice, We are already near the war zone. The rebels and the resistance army will attack soon, and then no one will survive. And now they have killed the government army. If we take them with us, not only will the government army not support us with vehicles, they will also not escort us and they will also kill us. We are now being bullied by both sides. Leave? But if we leave, what about the patients? Yuan Kursen frowned. You know, we are carrying out international medical aid and we represent the country's image. If we leave these dying patients and leave, I am afraid that everything we have done before will be in vain. At this time, Zhu Jiangchao looked at Jiang Tian and said with a smile, Mr. Jiang, you said that you are confident that you can destroy the government army camp and protect us. What makes you think so? Yes, Captain Zhu Kursen, don't listen to their nonsense, they don't have the ability to do so. How is it possible to kill thousands of government soldiers and occupy the camp? He is not a god. Ma Mingyang said impatiently. God damn it, if you don't want to go with us, we don't want to go with you either. Zhang Qianlei was annoyed. He frowned and looked at Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian, are you going or not? Hurry up and destroy the government army camp. If you don't go, I will go. Sir, please don't be angry. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but this concerns the lives of dozens of people and I need to know your strength. Are you soldiers? Zhu Jiangchao smiled apologetically. Soldiers? Lin Fengyan couldn't help but smile proudly and said, Mr. Jiang is the chief consultant of War Dragon. War Dragon? What's that? Many people were puzzled because they had never heard of it. Ma Mingyang's eyes flashed with an indescribable light as he looked at Jiang Tian. Zhu Jiangchao was shocked. He looked at Jiang Tian and said in a low voice, Mr. Lin, this is not a joke. You don't believe me? Forget it. In order not to waste time, I can only show you what I can do. Jiang Tian smiled helplessly and shook his head with a sigh. Suddenly he waved his sleeve gently. Boom. A seemingly solid golden wave of air surged out from under Jiang Tian's sleeves like a raging wave crashing against the shore. Boom. A loud noise. Not far away, the helicopter, which weighed several tons, flew 5 meters high and rolled for more than 10 meters before it crashed heavily on the ground, causing the earth to shake. Ma Mingyang was like a duck being strangled by the throat. His mouth was wide open and his eyeballs almost jumped out of his eye sockets as if he was hallucinating. Oh my god, this is too powerful. Is he still human? Yuan Kursen's beautiful eyes sparkled as she said with a fascinated face. Everyone's face was filled with shock. Former War Dragon Special Force Special Military Doctor, Captain Zhu Jiangchao, reporting to the Chief Advisor of Martial Arts. Zhu Jiangchao's face was stern. His legs were pressed together, his body was as straight as a javelin. He raised his right hand to the space between his eyebrows, and his eyes shot out a boundless light of worship as he shouted explosively with a voice like a loud bell. At ease. Jiang Tian nodded and said with a gratified face, You are indeed a member of War Dragon. Captain Zhu, I hope you can listen to the command and take responsibility. Let's fight side by side and protect all the Chinese in Sidoni. This is my responsibility. It is my duty. It is my honor. Zhu Jiangchao's blood instantly surged. Although he was injured in the battle and retired 10 years ago, he had heard of the name of this martial arts consultant from some of his comrades who were still in the service. He only felt that it was worth it to fight side by side with Mr. Zhang's martial arts consultant. The first step of the operation is to occupy the camp of the government army and form our own armed forces. Do you have the confidence? Jiang Tian said in a deep voice. Yes. Zhu Jiangchao shouted at the top of his lungs. The veins on his forehead were throbbing. Yes. Yuan Kursen and the others also shouted loudly. Only Ma Mingyang's eyes flashed with a hint of darkness as he looked at Jiang Tian with an uncertain expression. Let's start. Jiang Tian waved his hand. This time his order had the power to topple the mountains and overturn the seas. Everyone was very confident in Jiang Tian and quickly moved. Zhu Jiangchao, the former War Dragon military doctor, stood beside Jiang Tian and shouted. Don't demolish the simple houses. There's not enough time. Let's leave them to the local residents. Take the tents and medical equipment away. Xiao Ma will be responsible for it. Xiao Hu will be responsible for organizing the cases and information. Kursen will lead the nurses to move all the patients to the ambulance. Do you understand? Luque, please check the vehicles with me. Do you understand? Sir. Everyone replied in unison. Half an hour later, everything was ready. Night had already fallen. 2 pickup trucks, 6 SUVs, an Iveco bus, and 2 ambulances formed a motorcade. They crushed the muddy and dusty road and headed toward the government camp near Cass Lake. The vehicles were very crowded. Dozens of medical personnel and patients were almost squeezed into sardines. The old vehicles with insufficient air conditioning were filled with the smell of sweat. It was like a steamer. Yuan Kursen looked at the starry sky through the window and said, We're really going to be nailers in Sidoni. I hope Mr. Jiang can really protect us. Suddenly Zhang Qianlei, who was sitting on the roof of the car, jumped down and turned into a flash of blue light. Mr. Zhang, what are you going to do? They're coming. Zhang Qianlei didn't stop. He crossed 100 meters in one step and said in a thunderous voice, I'll clean them up first. This speed is too terrifying. Everyone stared at the back of that figure in fear, their mouths opened so wide that a large piece of bread could be stuffed in. Chapter 579. Only Jiang Tian, who was flying in the air on his flying sword, smiled and sped up a little. It was a good idea to bring Zhang Qianlei out. This old man had a bad temper and a fiery temper. He would have taken care of the ordinary armed forces in advance without having to do anything himself. A dark cloud gradually covered the moon. In the dark primitive forest, one couldn't even see their fingers in front of them. Under the cover of the night, an elite troop that was armed to the teeth set off from a camp of the government army near Cass Lake and approached the camp of the medical team along the main road. They were still 2 kilometers away from Jiang Tian's team. There were more than 30 government soldiers in 3 armored vehicles. The automatic rifles in their hands reflected the faint sunlight and their canvas boots stepped on the dirty bottom of the vehicles. On the sunroof of each vehicle was a Browning M2HB machine gun and a machine gunner. What if Brian was really killed by those Wuxia doctors? One of the black soldiers yawned and muttered, "Oh God. Wuxia is a superpower after all. It's not easy to provoke them. Should we report this to the Ministry of National Defense? So what if they killed him? Now that the rebels and the resistance army have broken through the defense line, how would they know if it was us who killed him? Anyway, our names weren't written on the bullets." A military leader with 3 flowers on his epaulets shouted. It was unknown what military position he held. "I heard that there are Wuxia girls there. They are as beautiful as white women but very gentle. We must enjoy them." A black soldier grinned with his white teeth. "Fuck Wuxia women, take their food and money." The leader of the 3 flowers shouted with his eyes flashing fiercely. He raised his arms and shouted to boost the morale of his subordinates. "Fuck Wuxia women, take their food and money." Dozens of soldiers roared together. Their ferocious aura filled the air like a group of demons dancing in the dark night. There seems to be a vehicle in front." The driver of the first vehicle frowned and looked at the faintly discernible lampposts in the distance. "Fire a warning shot. If it's our army, they will stop." The leader looked from the back seat and suddenly his pupils shrank. What kind of speed is that? Stop the car." On the road, a green light pierced through like lightning. Behind the green light, there was a long dragon made of dust and dried leaves. Compared to the best motorcycles, it was much faster. The green light stopped abruptly. It was a middle-aged man with black hair and black eyes. He was wearing a strange green robe. "Who are you?" The leader opened the door and jumped out of the car. He pointed the huge desert eagle at Zhang Qianlei and asked in English. "I think she's from Wuxia. But why isn't he wearing a white coat?" "Don't ask, just kill him." The other soldiers also picked up their guns and jumped out of the car, vigilantly looking at the middle-aged man in green. Judging from their attire, they should be government troops. The middle-aged man nodded thoughtfully. Suddenly, he stabbed his fingers into the leader's heart like a knife. Blood spurted out, and a heart that was still beating was pulled out by the middle-aged man and thrown to the ground. The soldiers were dumbfounded. They didn't expect this person to be so fierce. For a moment they were stunned. Before they could decide whether to turn around and run or shoot, Zhang Qianlei had already made his move again. Boom. He stomped his foot heavily and the ground collapsed. His hands formed a seal to attract thunder, and the surrounding air violently rubbed against each other. Amidst the ear-piercing sounds of friction, tens of thousands of streaks of lightning shot out in all directions like silver snakes. The 3 military vehicles were all shrouded in lightning. It was as if several suns had risen in the night, shining brightly. "What is that?" Even the medical team 2 kilometers away saw the strange lightning. Everyone exclaimed together. At the same time, the intercom and car sound system, which were affected by electromagnetic interference, emitted a disorderly and harsh whistling sound. Several of the soldiers were still in their original postures and were unharmed. It was just that their black skin and clothes had turned into a lifeless grayish white. The vehicle's engine was billowing black smoke. "They seem to be government troops," Yuan Kursin and the others exclaimed. When the convoy passed by, the breeze and the slight tremors caused the corpses to disintegrate in an instant, as if they were originally made of compressed ashes. "Oh, what happened to them? They're broken." This time their exclamations were even louder. They only felt that their legs were weak and their hearts almost jumped out of their throats. "Don't be afraid. Mr. Zhang is the last Taoist master of Longhu Mountain. What he used is a thunder cultivation method," Lin Fengmian said loudly. "What? He can kill people with thunder and lightning?" Everyone felt that their minds were not enough to understand. Their worldview was completely overturned and smashed in an instant. However, Zhu Jiangchao still kept calm. He asked everyone to stop because he wanted to check it out. The circuits and fuel tanks of the 3 explosion-proof vehicles were all damaged. All the bullets of the guns exploded automatically. The barrels of the guns were burned red by the thunder and lightning, and the wooden stocks were charred. It's really a thunder method. It's terrible. Zhu Jiangchao's heart was pounding. He carefully walked around the ashes of the soldiers. Many of these ashes still maintained the shape when they fell to the ground. Their heads and limbs could be clearly distinguished. The road within a radius of 50 meters turned into an abstract painting full of cracks. It was created by thunder and lightning, depicting the traces of death. Even in an incinerator with a temperature of 2000 degrees, it would take a few minutes to burn a corpse to ashes. But Zhang Qianlei's lightning did it in an instant. In addition to the high temperature of more than 10,000 degrees inside the thunder and lightning, the resonance of the matter wave made the energy evenly act on every cell. At this time, Jiang Tian and Zhang Qianlei had rushed side by side to the government army camp near Cass Lake. Outside the camp, shallow trenches were dug less than a person's height. Hundreds of steel barricades were wrapped in barbed wire, forming a camp about 3 miles in radius. Inside there were continuous tents and plank houses, brightly lit, and many fortifications with machine guns and heavy cannons. The entrance was paved with electric retractable spikes. A few black soldiers with rifles and cigarettes in their mouths patrolled back and forth, yawning. They're powered by diesel engines? Isn't the condition too bad? There aren't many fortifications. Zhang Qianlei was surprised. It's not worth much even if we snatch it. It won't work. Africans are lazy to begin with. Fighting a war is just like playing house. Jiang Tian shook his head helplessly. Let's kill them first. This government army wanted to get rid of the Chinese medical team. Zhang Qianlei shook his head helplessly and swaggered toward the entrance of the camp. What are you doing? Stop. This is a military-restricted area. A black soldier at the entrance raised his gun and shouted. Seems to be the Wuxia people. Maybe it's the medical team who came to ask for help. Another black soldier said listlessly. The Wuxia medical team can also treat the injuries of the rebels and the resistance army. Kill them. The black soldier in front roared loudly and pulled the trigger, shooting bullets toward Zhang Qianlei. Bang bang. 2 shots hit Zhang Qianlei. But he just swayed slightly and continued to walk toward the barricade at the entrance. Oh. He's not dead? Is he the god of the Xianxia tribe? The 2 black soldiers were stunned. Their guns fell to the ground as they watched Zhang Qianlei approach the entrance. At the same time, in the most luxurious barracks, the person in charge of the camp at Cass Lake, the commander of the 218th Army of the Government Army, General Lion, was holding a thick Cuban cigar in his mouth and talking to an old man with a strange silver glow. Several years after the outbreak of the war, President Cuba, the head of the military government, had appointed more than 500 generals. As long as they conquered a few villages and tribes and controlled thousands of soldiers, they could be appointed as major generals. Above major generals there were lieutenant generals, generals, and so on. Anyway, these military titles did not cost money. As long as they could win the hearts of the people, President Cuba was not stingy. General Lion was wearing a green chemical fiber military uniform, a red beret and big sunglasses. He had a big gold chain around his neck and a golden wristwatch on his arm. He had a mouth full of gold teeth and said with a smile, "Elder Ian, as long as you're willing to help the government army defeat the rebels and the resistance army, President Cuba will let the chief of your tribe be the grand state preceptor. And the few elders will be the junior state preceptors." He held a big cigar in his mouth and said patiently, "At that time you'll enjoy endless wealth. You'll have wine, food and clothes imported from Wuxia, big color TVs and washing machines imported from Japan, planes imported from America, luxury cars imported from Germany, beauties of all races and skin colors and tobacco from Cuba. You'll be able to use all of them as you wish. We're the messengers of God. Why would we care about these worldly pleasures?" Elder Yin's skinny body was covered in silver powder. He had a colorful bedsheet, a cloak made of reeds and banana leaves. His pair of sinister eyes gave people a feeling of eeriness and unpredictability. If the longevity tribe wanted it, we would have ruled Sidonia long ago. He had a proud look on his face and said loudly, "What we need is peace. Your war has already disturbed the longevity tribe's service to God. Elder, what you said makes sense." It seemed like General Lion was also good at acting. His eyes turned red and he said emotionally, "Peace, who doesn't want peace? I've been fighting this war for 8 years. More than 10 of my children have died in the war. They sacrificed themselves heroically for the liberation of the nation. I'm honored, but I'm even more heartbroken." He stood up and bowed solemnly with a face full of reverence. "Elder Yin, please help the government army to kill the rebels and the rebels. Let the people of Sidoni enjoy peace and prosperity. The longevity tribe can help the government army, but there's a condition. The people of Sidoni must believe in the longevity tribe's god. There are no other gods." "Of course. The other gods are all fake gods." General Lion was overjoyed. "Also," Elder Yin said sinisterly, "our god needs live sacrifices. We need 10 live people every day." "That's not a problem." General Lion patted his chest without hesitation and said, "Don't worry. The rebels and the rebels together have hundreds of thousands of people. How can it not be enough for them to eat?" At this moment, a series of gunshots came from the door of the barracks. Elder Yin frowned and said, "It seems like the enemy is attacking." General Lion stood up and looked outside. He smiled disdainfully and said, "It's just 2 people. I have thousands of people here, more than 10 cannons, more than 10 armored vehicles and tanks. They're courting death." Chapter 580. In the face of the soldiers' tickling shots, Zhou Xian simply ignored them and let them shoot. He calmly went to the barricade at the gate and kicked it out. Boom. Whoosh. The barricade, which weighed more than 1,000 kilograms, was like a piece of paper, lightly rolling and whistling as it flew out. Clang. The barricade flew 20 meters high and fell with an amazing momentum. A simple barracks was smashed into pieces and all the soldiers inside were killed. But why is there a barricade flying over? The soldiers who heard the noise and came out of the barracks were stunned when they saw this scene. They thought they were hallucinating. Enemy. The patrolling soldiers were the first to react. They immediately blew their whistles and the whole barracks was filled with sirens. At this time Jiang Tian also moved. He stepped on the ground and the ground suddenly collapsed, creating 2 deep pits. He was like a furious dragon coming out of the sea, shooting straight into the sky. The next moment, boom. Jiang Tian was like a missile, falling from the sky and directly stomping an armored vehicle into a metal pancake. The soldiers inside were turned into meat paste before they could even make a sound. Is this the legendary god? Seeing this scene, General Lion was so scared that his cigar fell to the ground. He was stunned and couldn't believe it. It's a god of the alien race. They must be here to snatch the mature blood orchid. No god can resist the temptation of the blood orchid. Elder Yin's pupils suddenly shrank. In an instant he was on full alert. A monstrous murderous aura rose to the sky. He shouted coldly, "Lion, now you must kill them at all costs." Fire. General Lion rushed to the desk, picked up the radio walkie-talkie and roared in shock and anger. "Open fire, motherfucker. Where are the howitzers? Where's the tank battalion? Beat these 2 weirdos to death." The soldiers woke up from a dream. They picked up their rifles and submachine guns and shot at Jiang Tian and Zhou Xian. There were also some who got into the armored vehicles and mobilized the heavy machine guns on them. Bullets shot towards Jiang Tian and Zhou Xian like steel chains. However, how could these bullets kill Zhou Xian, who had the physique of a half-step human immortal, and Jiang Tian, who had the Gingjin divine body? When the bullets hit Jiang Tian's body, they were like weak snowflakes. With a light shake of his body, they scattered in all directions. This was the result of an increase in strength. Back then, when Jiang Tian was fighting for the Princess Flower on the summit of Mount Everest, he was injured by the cannon god. Now he was at the 6th level of Qi refinement stage and the 7th metal true essence was thick and surging. Coupled with the small success of the 7th metal divine body, he was not afraid of artillery tanks. On Earth, other than nuclear weapons, intercontinental missiles, ground-penetrating missiles, and a few other weapons of mass destruction, there was nothing that could hurt him. Even if these heavy machine guns fired continuously and interweaved a net of firepower, they could not harm a single hair on him. To catch bandits, first catch the ringleader. Old Zhang, kill the commander first. Zhang Tian was not afraid of bullets. His body turned into a bright golden light and rampaged, breaking through the fortifications, knocking away the armored vehicles and rushing toward the command room. Zhang Tian stepped forward and the golden light shot out like a whistling arrow. The golden light was bright and holy with a kind of ethereal charm. It was like the light of a holy sword of the god of heaven, shooting straight for hundreds of meters. Boom! Within hundreds of meters, the high-grade concrete bunkers, turrets, bunkers and other fortifications were destroyed by Zhang Tian as if they were made of paper. Smoke and dust billowed and the bricks and cement blocks flew everywhere. The soldiers were directly bombarded by the majestic force and torn into pieces without even a groan. Boom! Boom! The heavy armored vehicles, pickup trucks and transport trucks were like toy cars that had been thrown out by naughty children. They flew out and smashed into the ground. Thunder rumbled in the camp and the ground shook for a moment. Kill, 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 kill. Zhang Qianlei showed his invincible might. His thick black hair fluttered like a waterfall. He took the hail of bullets and shook his arms. He soared into the air like a big bird and crossed hundreds of meters in an instant, jumping up and down and rushing toward the command room. Every time he landed, he waved his hand and a lightning bolt that spanned hundreds of meters swept out. Under the bombardment of 10,000 degrees high-temperature lightning, most of the soldiers were turned into ashes in a second. The bullets and shells were like firecrackers exploding. It only took them 3 minutes to cross half of the camp and they were only 1 kilometer away from the command room at the rear. Rumble. In the northeast of the camp, the tank battalion finally moved out. More than a dozen tanks crushed the rocks and surrounded Zhang Tian and Zhang Qianlei. In this regard, Zhang Tian was not afraid and didn't even bother to look at them. These tanks looked very old. The paint on the tanks had peeled off, revealing their original metallic color. They were basically the Matilda Type 1 and Type 2 tanks used by the British Army in World War II. The Type 1 tanks weighed no more than 10 tons and were less than 5 meters long. Compared to the tanks of the Japanese Self-Defense Force, they were only half of their size. The sound of shells being loaded came from the barrels and the tanks were about to fire. Squeak. Tanks. Zhang Qianlei, on the other hand, was very excited. He screamed and made a gesture with his left hand and waved his right hand. Bolts of lightning appeared out of thin air like dancing silver snakes and shrouded the tanks. Bang! 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 One by one, the tanks suddenly exploded like a pile of ignited firecrackers. The cannonballs installed inside were ignited by the lightning fire and exploded in unison. The earth shook and the mountains shook. Flames soared into the sky. All the tanks were torn apart and lay on the ground with black smoke billowing out. Go! Zhang Tian stepped forward and grabbed a cannon barrel with his right hand. Under the stunned gazes of the people around him, he twisted his waist and swung his arm, throwing the Type 2 tank that weighed more than 10 tons out. Whoosh! The tank, with a whistling sound, crossed a distance of hundreds of meters and smashed toward the command room like a meteorite falling from the sky. How is this possible? They must be real gods. Countless soldiers could not hold on any longer. They threw away the spears in their hands and rushed to kneel on the ground. Ministry of Defense 218 Government Army, General Lion, calling for reinforcements. Calling for reinforcements. There are foreign gods invading. In the command room, General Lion was so scared that his body trembled like a sieve. He shouted anxiously into the radio walkie-talkie. They are probably here to snatch the blood orchid of the longevity tribe. This will destroy our cooperation with the gods of the longevity tribe. He received a reply from the Ministry of Defense that they would immediately mobilize other troops to support him. He was slightly relieved. Suddenly he heard a boom. There was a loud noise. He looked up and saw a tank smash the roof and fall from the sky. Isn't it too fast? General Lion spat out his last words in horror before he was smashed into meat paste by the tank. After the tank smashed General Lion, it did not slow down. It smashed the remaining 2 simple barracks into powder before falling to the ground. All the soldiers were either killed or seriously injured. Only Elder Silver was covered in a silver light to protect his body. His body retreated like an arrow. We surrender. We don't fight anymore. We beg the great gods to spare us from death. The commander was dead. All the soldiers of the 218 army no longer had the slightest intention to resist. They threw down their guns and weapons and knelt on the ground, trembling, to worship the two foreign gods. Africa was wild and backward. Their beliefs were very complicated. Almost every ethnic group had their own gods. Even different tribes and villages in the same ethnic group had different beliefs. But no matter what they believed in, they were almost all superstitious and firmly believed in the existence of gods. They believed that through all kinds of strange rituals, prayers, and offerings, they could directly communicate with the gods to receive blessings and blessings. They could make the weather good, harvest crops, and make diseases and disasters disappear. Before this, they had never seen gods. But every family worshipped the statues and altars of the gods. They prayed and worshipped every day, so they had no doubts. Now that they saw Zhang Tian's miracle, they immediately treated Zhang Tian and Zhang Qianlei as real gods. Only Elder Silver forced himself to calm down. He took a few steps forward and bowed in a strange posture. Honorable foreign gods, this is the territory of the Longevity tribe. It is ruled by the bird god, the stone man god, and the black elephant god. Please stop killing and leave immediately. Otherwise you will be punished to death by the gods. You are from the Longevity tribe? Zhang Tian looked at him with a half-smile. Yes, my name is Sawyer. I am Elder Silver, one of the 4 great elders of the Longevity tribe. I am also one of the priests who worship the gods. Elder Silver puffed out his thin chest and said proudly, I am the lucky one who is favored by the gods. I am the apostle of the gods' glory. I convey the will of the gods to the world. Cut the crap. Take me to the Longevity tribe and find the blood orchid. I will spare your life. Zhang Tian said indifferently. What did you say? How dare you be rude to the messenger of the gods? Your ugly, dirty, and depraved soul will be mercilessly purified by the gods' punishment. Elder Silver's pupils shrank. He looked at Zhang Tian in shock and anger. Are you not going to lead the way? Before he could finish his words, Jiang Tianxin waved his hand, and a 10-meter-long golden qi weapon swept out from the ground. With a thud, Elder Silver's witchcraft was useless. His legs were cut off by Zhang Tian. He fell to the ground with blood gushing out. He let out an earth-shattering scream. He rolled and screamed as he shouted, You are a god of a foreign race. What right do you have to behave atrociously in Sidoni? You will be mercilessly punished by the gods and die without a burial place. You said this is the territory of the Longevity tribe? Jiang Tian snorted. He looked at the officers kneeling on the ground and said in authentic American English, From now on, the area around Cass Lake, including the Longevity tribe, belongs to me. Do you have any objections? The high-ranking officers of the 218th Route Army were scared out of their wits. They wanted to run but did not dare to. They were more or less cultured. They knew that the person in front of them was not a god, but he definitely had the strength that was comparable to or even beyond a god. With his strength, it would only take a day for him to defeat the entire Sidoni, suppress the warlords and establish a new country. As long as Zhang Tian was willing, even if they ran to the ends of the earth, Zhang Tian could kill them with one slap. Now that they heard Zhang Tian's words, they did not dare to hesitate. They hurriedly said, The 218th Route Army obeys the oracle of the gods. Look, at least the area around Cass Lake belongs to me. Zhang Tian looked at Elder Silver and said indifferently, Now take me to the Longevity tribe and expel those fake gods. Chapter 581. The battle is already over? This combat power is too terrifying. One man breaking 1,000 armies, breaking 1,000 armies. When Zhu Jiangchao and the others arrived, everyone was stunned. The entire camp looked like it had been bombarded by cluster missiles. Smoke and dust billowed, flames soared into the sky, and scorched earth was everywhere. Broken limbs and corpses were everywhere, and the smell of blood, smoke, and ozone filled the air. Many of the fortifications had collapsed, and it was a mess. Black smoke billowed from the tanks as they lay on the ground like dead turtles. Broken armored vehicles lay on the ground in disarray. Corpses and blood stains were everywhere. In the middle of the battlefield, Zhang Tian stood proudly like a god, and many soldiers of the 218th Route Army knelt on the ground trembling. Whoosh! Monkey Chi Tian held Tao, and jumped from Huang Linger's shoulder to Zhang Tian's shoulder. He pointed at the tanks and squeaked. He was protesting that Zhang Tian didn't bring him along to fight. Last time in Japan he had destroyed armored vehicles and tanks to his heart's content and was very happy. Hey, stop squeaking. There are rebels everywhere. Don't you have a chance to show off? Zhang Tian smiled in resignation and scratched Heaven's equal to Heaven's back. Heaven's equal curled up his neck in comfort and grinned. Luke's confidence doubled as he looked at Zhang Tian with anticipation and admiration. Master Kong Jin Ning's branch in Sidonie has been attacked by the rebels, and they can't hold on for much longer. More than 50 employees and Chinese refugees are in danger. Raise the 5-starred red flag. Zhang Tian looked at Yuan Kersen. Yes. Yuan Kersen took out a 5-starred red flag from the car and walked to the flagpole. She lowered the flag of Sidonie and the government's army and slowly raised the 5-starred red flag with a solemn expression. Everyone, don't worry. The place where the 5-starred red flag is our home. We will never abandon any of our countrymen. Zhang Tian's firm voice resounded throughout the entire camp. Even though Zhang Tian had returned after 10,000 years of cultivation, he had never forgotten that he was a descendant of Yan and Huang. Now that his compatriots were in trouble and were caught in the fire and water of war, it would have been fine if he hadn't run into them, but since he had, how could he just stand by and watch? Everyone in Wuxia stood solemnly and raised their heads solemnly. Their blood boiled as they sang the national anthem with tears in their eyes. After that, Zhang Tian acted like a great general, issuing orders one after another. Zhu Zhangchao, I'll leave this army to you. Kill anyone who dares to resist. Zhang Tian said calmly. Take out the skills you learned in War Dragons, strengthen the fortifications, train these black ghost soldiers, and turn them into steel fortresses to protect the Chinese. Are you confident? Yes. Zhu Zhangchao roared. All right, from now on this will be Huaxia's refuge. Zhang Tian nodded satisfactorily and tossed Qitian to Lin Fengmian. Lin Fengmian, you and Lu Kuo will take your weapons and pick up some soldiers with good military skills. Drive to the Jin Ning Group's branch office in Dasoni and rescue all the Chinese. If Heaven's equal follows you, he'll be of great use at critical moments. Yes, sir. I don't care if they are the government forces, the resistance forces, or the rebels. Kill anyone who dares to stop us. Yes, sir. Lin Fengmian replied loudly as his blood boiled. Together with Lu Kuo and the others, he found a bulletproof vest and a steel helmet and put on their weapons. Seeing this, Zhang Tian nodded. Lin Fengmian was a grandmaster at the peak of the transcendent state, so he was not afraid of bullets. Equipped with bulletproof vests and modern weapons, he was not afraid of an army of over 100 people. Even Heaven's equal monkey was a god of slaughter. He had once followed him through the 28th Japanese Army and Air Force Brigade. Saroni's stragglers were not even enough to fill the gaps between his teeth. They were only 30 kilometers away from Sidonie's company, so it should not be a problem. Brother Zhang, speed is the most important thing in war. Don't get caught up in the battle. Go to San Juan alone and take down President Cuba. It was the first time Zhang Tian had used such honorifics in front of Zhang Qianlei. He said in a deep voice, you have to intimidate him and make him order the government forces not to harass the Chinese in our bases. If he dares to disobey, kill him. Appoint a new leader. Very well, Brother Zhang. Don't worry, I won't let you down. Zhang Qianlei cracked a smile and said with a murderous look. When Zhu Zhangchao heard this, his face was filled with shock and all sorts of feelings welled up in his heart. He had heard that before World War II, an immortal state warrior had dominated the world with his powerful martial arts. He had massacred tens of thousands of soldiers and overthrown the governments of small countries. Before this, I didn't believe it and thought that it was all fabricated. Now that I've seen it for myself, I know that the rumors are true. However, the next second Zhang Qianlei said awkwardly, but I don't speak English. I need an interpreter. Take Qitian with you. Zhang Tian said, once this is done, don't waste any time. Meet us at the Cass Lake camp. Let's go. Before Zhang Tian could finish his words, he picked up the silver elder like an eagle picking up a chick. He signaled Huang Linger with his eyes, and the two of them turned into two streams of light, one gold and one green, instantly flying hundreds of meters away. Master Kong, what are you going to do? Everyone asked. I'm going to destroy the Changsho tribe and get the immortal Ascension Blood Arrow Orchid. Zhang Tian's voice traveled through the forest and came from afar. He seemed to be a few kilometers away, but his voice was still clear. The Xianxia tribe was only a few kilometers away from the Cass Lake camp. It only took Zhang Tian 10 minutes to reach the Xianxia tribe. The Xianxia tribe was located in a green valley with a radius of 3 to 4 kilometers. The buildings here were more advanced, sturdy and comfortable than those in other places. Along the way, Zhang Tian saw that most of the houses in other tribes and villages were made of yellow mud, with simple roofs made of reeds, bark and banana leaves. Here, small European-style villas were hidden in the dense forest. There were even satellite receiving equipment, power stations, and an asphalt road leading outside. It was like a paradise on earth. From far away, Zhang Tian could see the huge waterfall rushing down from the cliff. The water poured down in torrents like silver, like silk, like snow. The water splashed in all directions and the sound of the water rumbled. Above the deep pool below, the water gushed out from the bottom of the pool like a silver dragon, surrounded by white mist. The waterfall contained abundant spiritual qi of heaven and earth. It was no less than the spiritual spring on the Cultivation planet, and even more than the dragon marrow spiritual vein in the Shuangqing villa. Such an abundant spiritual spring, no wonder it can breed a top-grade spiritual herb like the Celestial Ascension Blood Arrow Orchid. Zhang Tian couldn't help but exclaim. The Celestial Ascension Blood Arrow Orchid, a top-grade spiritual herb, blooms once every 500 years and bears fruit once every 1,000 years. Zhang Tian's divine sense immediately scanned the few blood-colored orchids that were taller than a person. Especially the fist-sized red fruit, which made his heart beat faster. These Celestial Ascension Blood Arrow Orchids have all bloomed, and one of them even bears a blood orchid fruit. It can be seen that they have absorbed spiritual qi for at least 1,000 years. The effect must be amazing. Zhang Tian, it seems a little dangerous. Huang Linger's expression turned serious, and she pulled out the divine wood of heavenly source stick. Don't be afraid. Zhang Tian squeezed her little hand comfortingly. Next, a fight is inevitable. They are not human and they often eat people. You just have to kill them. You have to get used to it slowly. His divine sense also felt that the entire tribal valley was filled with a dangerous aura. However, the Celestial Ascension Blood Arrow Orchid and the Blood Orchid fruit were right in front of him. Not to mention a few tribes of the ruins of immortality. Even if there were really gods descending, Zhang Tian would kill them and get these heavenly materials and earthly treasures. I'm not afraid. I want to fight side by side with you and kill demons. Huang Linger smiled sweetly like 100 flowers blooming. This was also the reason why Zhang Tian brought Huang Linger with him this time. The demons of the alien tribes of the ruins of immortality were not human. Huang Linger's psychological burden to kill them would be less, and she would gradually adapt to killing and fighting. Ah, the gods of our longevity tribe are real gods who fell from the sky. How can you kill them? The silver elder had lost too much blood and his breath was weak. His face was pale, but he was stubborn and still full of ridicule and resentment. How dare you snatch the blood orchids of the gods? You will go to hell and be mercilessly burned by the fire of hell. Old man, you talk too much nonsense. With a shake of his arm, Zhang Tian directly crushed the silver elder into meat paste. After that, he stepped on Xiao Hei's flying sword and transformed into a streak of light. He stretched out his hand and grabbed towards the mature Immortal Ascension Blood Arrow Orchid. He put the mature fruit and the roots into his storage ring. As for the other plants, he only needed to wait for another 10 days and half a day to bear blood orchids. Zhang Tian did not want to waste natural resources, so he waited for them to mature. Who dares to snatch our blood orchids? This is a sacrifice to the gods. Suddenly, a thunderous voice resounded through the entire longevity tribe and echoed in the valley, like the roar of an evil spirit. The chief was furious. Is there an invasion? One after another, powerful silhouettes burst out from the houses and leaped onto the roofs. They roared loudly and looked around. That shameless thief is at the Blood Orchid waterfall. He has begun to pick our spiritual fruits. Go, my loyal descendants, go and kill them. The chief's voice was full of anger and hatred, as if he wanted to cut Zhang Tian into pieces to vent his anger. Kill him. How dare he invade our longevity tribe? Use his blood and cruel divine punishment to wash away his monstrous sins. Many tribe members heard the news and roared angrily. Like grasshoppers, they jumped up and down on the roof and between the trees. They crossed hundreds of meters in the air with one step and rushed toward the Blood Orchid waterfall. Boom, boom, Boom. 3 powerful figures suddenly appeared above the waterfall, floating in the air and surrounding Zhou Xian. They drank the spirit spring of the blood orchid waterfall and even swallowed some of the fallen leaves and flowers of the blood orchid. Although they were practicing some crude witchcraft left behind by their tribe, their qi and blood were abnormally strong and their strength was comparable to that of Wuxia's transcendent state warriors or mystic enlightening sorcerers. The leader was an old man wearing a colorful bedsheet and a bamboo hat. His thin body was smeared with gold powder. He glanced at the silver elder's corpse on the ground, his eyes filled with shock and anger. He looked up at Zhou Xian coldly and shouted in English, "Who are you? How dare you come to our longevity tribe to kill people and steal our treasures, blaspheming the gods? Hand over the fruits you picked, and I will offer you as a sacrifice to the gods so that your fallen body and soul can be purified and transcended." Chapter 582. Gods? In my eyes, you are nothing but a bunch of ants. He hand it to you? No way. Zhou Xian said calmly. If you submit to me now, kneel down and beg for mercy, I might be willing to let you go. This place was barbaric and primitive. There were wars and massacres everywhere, and the social order had long been disrupted. There was no reason to talk about it, and the bigger fist was the law. Besides, the Xianxia tribe were not kind people. They called themselves the messengers of the gods, but in reality, they were nothing more than a bunch of vicious demons. Along the way, little Arthur told Qin Fan that the Xianxia tribe would capture 3 or 4 people to sacrifice to the so-called gods every day. In the last 3 years, the Xianxia tribe had captured hundreds of people from the K tribe not far from them. The Xianxia tribe had eaten almost all the people from the nearby tribes. Little Arthur had gone to San Juan to work to avoid the war and the Xianxia tribe. Killing them, Zhou Xian naturally did not have any psychological burden. They were even more evil than those government troops who killed without batting an eye. What a barbaric kid. How dare he blaspheme our gods? Elder Bronze, kill him. An elder wearing a broken bronze armor with a necklace made of a few children's skulls hanging around his neck was covered in blood. He stepped on the air and rushed over, waving a thick stone stick and smashing it towards Zhou Xian. In fact, the Elder Bronze was the leader of the Xianxia tribe. His position was equivalent to that of a cultivation elder, and he was a few times more powerful than the Elder Silver who was in charge of diplomacy. Years ago, the Xianxia tribe had been attacked by the Elder Bronze, and a few tanks were smashed into pieces by the Elder Bronze's stone club. The Elder Bronze's stone club was as powerful as a transcendent master's attack. The force of the blow was so powerful that it could crush a small car. Humph. Useless. In response, Zhou Xian only waved his hand casually. Boom. A giant golden palm the size of a millstone appeared out of thin air and slammed toward Elder Bronze. Crack. The Elder Bronze didn't even have time to scream. His body that was harder than steel instantly split into pieces, causing blood and pieces of flesh to shoot out in all directions, and he died without a complete corpse. Hiss. Seeing this, all the powerhouses of the longevity tribe sucked in a breath of cold air, their eyes filled with fear. Elder Black Iron, who originally wanted to attack, also quietly retreated a few steps and hid behind Elder Gold. Are you from Wuxia or Japan? Was it Miyamoto Geniki or Yizhantian? Elder Gold's expression changed drastically. He squinted his eyes and a golden light shot out from them. You are not qualified to know my name. Zhou Xian's face was full of disdain. He slowly landed on a protruding boulder on the cliff. He took out a cup and filled it with spiritual spring water. I declare that from now on, these exotic flowers and plants as well as the longevity tribe belong to me. Call your chief and those monsters out to be my servants and mounts. What did you say? Elder Gold was so angry that the veins on his forehead were throbbing. He waved the golden staff in his hand and roared, Children, kill this blasphemous sinner. Kill him. Kill, kill, kill. Use his blood as an offering to our true God. He is a cultivator. God must love his flesh and blood. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Dozens of members of the longevity tribe let out a thunderous roar and rushed toward Zhou Xian. Each of them was more than 100 years old, but they were very powerful. Some of them had taken the spiritual spring water and swallowed the fallen leaves of the blood orchid. Their bodies had been awakened and even their genes had mutated and become arcanists. Some of them had practiced primitive dark witchcraft, which could trigger the energy of heaven and earth. They were comparable to mystic enlightening sorcerers. Swoosh, swoosh. There was a black man whose arms were longer than his knees. His feet were similar to his palms and were much longer than ordinary people. Like a monkey, he climbed on the stone walls and vines and rushed over hundreds of meters like a shooting star. He opened his bloody mouth and bit, while his sharp claws, which were covered with sharp nails, scratched at Xianxia. He had mutated his monkey genes and was a D-level arcanist. In terms of strength, he could easily kill an internal force expert. Trash. Xianxia slapped him with his left hand. The slap directly embedded him into the stone wall. His bones and tendons were broken and he was covered in blood. He died in the blink of an eye. Clang. At the same time, Xianxia waved his fingers and a golden Gingjin Qi soldier slashed out like mercury. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Blood surged as more than a dozen members of the longevity tribe were cut in half. The corpses fell into the deep pool below, splashing water several meters high. In an instant, the entire deep pool with a radius of tens of meters was dyed red. There were also a few who had their limbs cut off. Their intestines and stomachs were torn. They were still alive, screaming and struggling in the water. The remaining members of the longevity tribe landed on the ground and stopped. They did not dare to move forward. What? He is so powerful. The Golden Elder was so shocked that he staggered and almost fell from the sky. His eyes were filled with shock and regret. His heart was bleeding. These people were the elite warriors of the longevity tribe. Usually they could fight against 100 people. They had spent a lot of spirit spring and flower petals to train them. But now they were all dead in a second. The Black Iron Elder's face changed drastically. His eyes were filled with fear. He said in a trembling voice, "This person is so powerful. We are definitely not his match. Why don't we summon the gods to suppress him?" "No. The gods are resting. How can we disturb them? This is an unforgivable crime." The Golden Elder shook his head. His face was filled with reverence and fear. He was extremely devout and respectful to the so-called gods. "But what should we do now? We are no match for him. I am afraid that even the chief can't do it," the Black Iron Elder said anxiously. At this time, the powerful warriors of the longevity tribe were in a difficult position. When he asked them to fight, they didn't dare to step forward, but when he asked them to leave, they were very unwilling. In their hearts, the three gods were supreme and could not be blasphemed. Xianxia took away the resources of the gods. How could they let Xianxia go? They would be punished by the heavens. "Warriors, you are the warriors of the gods. The gods will protect you. Even if you die, you must fight. Even if you die, your souls will ascend to the heavenly court." The Golden Elder shouted loudly. Then he waved his scepter and chanted with a devout expression. He used the Wuxia language to chant heavenly court. Back then, the flying sword that killed the sacred battle ape Qi Aoxing also came from the heavenly court. It seems that the descendants of the ruins of immortality are indeed here. Xianxia's heart suddenly skipped a beat. His eyes were burning. But now was not the time to think about it because the warriors had charged over again. At dawn, I woke up beside the tomb. The walls of Death Knell Town were only mottled with pain and wounds. Looking back again, the battlefield of blood and fire, the glory of the past. Only the shell of a slaughtered body. Empty eye sockets, no blood, no tears, no light. Looking into the distance, the glory of the tribe, the glory of decay. Water could not wash away the old wounds on the finger bones. Broken armor could not hide the warrior's faith. Holding the spear again, returning to the forefront, the horn sounded again in the distance. The Golden Elder was singing in the dialect of the longevity tribe. The lyrics were obscure and difficult to understand, but there was a sense of transcendence, emptiness, and holiness, as well as a sense of surging battle intent. When the chant sounded, the eyes of the tribal warriors suddenly burst out with blood-red light. An unprecedented battle intent surged. Madness, bloodthirstiness, brutality, fearlessness, and all rationality disappeared. Roar, roar, roar. Kill him. Fight for the gods. We are the slaves of the gods. Death is glory. They roared and charged toward Xianxia like a pack of wild beasts. Each of them unleashed a terrifying combat strength. It's a secret technique to control the mind. That's some skill. Seeing this, Zhang Tian sighed inwardly. Then he looked coldly at the Golden Elder and said, Hey, stop singing. I'm talking to you. Your singing is terrible. Sing one more line and the next one I'll kill will be you. How strange. This undead overture can interfere with the divine soul and make people submit to the majesty of the gods. Why is he not swayed? The Golden Elder was actually more surprised and uneasy. But at this time he had no time to pay attention to Zhang Tian. He stepped into the void, waved his wand and continued to sing the song that interfered with the divine soul. Enough. Zhang Tian was a little annoyed. He used the dragon roar demonic sound. A long roar, sonorous like a dragon's roar, sharp like a phoenix's cry, and like rolling thunder, poured down from the ninth heaven. In an instant the people fell to the ground holding their heads and rolling on the ground. But this was just the beginning. Zhang Tian's roar became louder and louder until it reached the clouds. Visible sound waves spurted out from his mouth, rippling out, mixed with the golden true core strength spreading out layer by layer. The sound shook 100 miles and even the camp at Cass Lake could hear it clearly. Rumble. The whole longevity tribe shook as if a tropical storm was sweeping through. Crack. Crack. All the windows exploded in an instant, and pieces of glass danced in the air like butterflies. The scene at Blood Orchid Waterfall was even more shocking. The Golden Elder was at the back of the formation. He was barely able to hold on, but his chanting stopped abruptly. He held his head and fell to the ground. He hurriedly sent out a few golden ripples to block the attack and staggered back. He trembled, grabbed the Black Iron Elder's hand and shouted, I'm seriously injured, ask the chief and the gods to come out. It's too late. Look. The Black Iron Elder smiled bitterly and looked forward. The Golden Elder looked up and saw that with Zhang Tian as the center, the tribe's warriors fell one after another, like rice being harvested by a sickle. The nearest few had their skin cracked and fell off and their heads exploded. Within a few hundred meters there was not a single tribe warrior left. They were all dead. This. The Golden Elder was dumbfounded and his heart fell into the abyss and his mouth tasted bitter. Zhang Tian roared and killed 100 warriors of the Longevity tribe, which was almost all the combat power of the tribe. This was also the most painful loss in the history of the Longevity tribe and it was unbearable. What should we do? We will be killed by him too. The Black Iron Elder trembled and smiled bitterly, just as the Golden Elder was in despair. Evil man, how dare you kill our tribesmen and blaspheme our gods? I will tear you into pieces. Suddenly, a thunderous roar was heard. Chapter 583. Then he saw a young black man with a strong physique gliding over on a big bird. The chief is here. We're saved. Chief, our warriors have all been killed by this blasphemous thief. Please kill this person and avenge our children and grandchildren. Seeing this, the elders of the Gold Clan and the Black Iron Clan knelt down and cried with reverence in their eyes. The chief was not only the leader of their tribe, but also the priest who served the three gods and had the most powerful Dharma powers. If he took action, the invading demon would surely die. Zhang Tian narrowed his eyes. The giant bird's wings were 10 meters long. When it spread its wings, it looked like a dark cloud. Its feet were three-petaled, fleshy and had sharp hooks growing from them. Its wings were covered with azure feathers like dragon scales and at the end of the wings were upper limbs like human hands. At the end of the slender claws were bone hooks with a metallic luster. The scariest thing was its triangular head without a single hair. Its facial features looked like a rat's, but they were shorter and looked more like a bat's. Its green bean-like eyes protruded and shot out a fierce light. It bared its fangs and screeched. Huanglinger was shocked. Her pretty face was filled with fear and disgust. She grabbed Zhang Tian's hand and retreated behind him. Zhang Tian, what the hell is this thing? It's so ugly, so scary. It's called the green scale fire owl. Zhang Tian wasn't scared at all. Instead, he looked excited as if he had found a treasure. Don't be afraid. You can kill them too. We'll catch them later and make them your mounts. The green scale fire owl was a spirit beast that was very useful to cultivators even on the cultivation continent. It was extremely fast and could fly over 1,000 miles in a day. It could even break the sound barrier. Besides, it had amazing defensive abilities. 1,000-year-old green-scale fire owl could withstand the attacks of a Foundation establishment Grand Cultivator. Its fighting power wasn't weak. Its feathers and bone hooks could easily kill a transcendent grandmaster, and it could spit out a special fire. This kind of flame was not inferior to the Samadhi true flame and other deviant flames. It could smelt everything. In short, it was one of the best mounts for qi refinement cultivators. In Jiang Tian's eyes, it was far more valuable than the world's best armed helicopters, and even comparable to fighter jets. What was even more shocking was that behind this huge green-scaled fire owl, there were dozens of adult fire owls. Every single one of them had surging battle prowess. Jiang Tian was overjoyed. Alright, if I can subdue all of them, I can probably get one for each of the Heavenly Alliance's members. That's good. It's just that they're a little ugly, so we have to give them hats and sunglasses. Seeing Jiang Tian so calm, Huang Linger's confidence doubled, and her beautiful eyes curved into a beautiful crescent moon shape. Oh. The leading green-scaled fire owl retracted its wings and landed on the mountain peak opposite of Jiang Tian. Its claws gleaming with a metallic luster rubbed against the mountain rocks, producing dazzling sparks. The chieftain held a scepter in his hand, on which were engraved 3 strange totems. One of the totems had the head of a bird and the body of a human, with a pair of wings on its back. One of them was tall and seemed to merge with the mountains and earth. The last one looked like a snake coiled in the water. When the chieftain saw the corpses around the waterfall, he flew into a rage. He pointed at Jiang Tian and shouted angrily, "You dare to kill the people of my longevity tribe? Even if you are far away, you will be killed. Today I will tear you into pieces." He wanted revenge for the death of his children and grandchildren. In his opinion, the Changshu tribe was a sacred place blessed by the gods. Only by killing Jiang Tian could he vent his anger. "Kill him." The chieftain waved the scepter with a furious face. Suddenly, the green-scaled fire owls took to the air again and pounced on Jiang Tian from all directions. The scene was shocking. There were dozens of green-scaled fire owls, and they were so dense that they covered the sky. Each of the green-scaled fire owls was deadly and could easily kill a transcendent grandmaster. Bang bang bang. Jiang Tian flicked his fingers, but the finger auras missed. The golden finger auras shot out like bullets from a sniper rifle and landed on the green-scaled fire owls. Ouch ouch ouch. The fire owls let out a shrill cry. Sparks flew from the green-scaled fire owls' bodies as their dragon-scaled feathers fell off. They stumbled around like headless flies, but luckily they didn't fall. What? This foreign creature can hurt the green-scaled fire owls? The chieftain was shocked and couldn't believe it. These green-scaled fire owls couldn't even be killed by machine guns. Did it mean that this person's attacks were as powerful as cannonballs? Little did they know that Jiang Tian was going easy on them because he wanted to tame them. Otherwise, the Li fire chi weapons would have killed them. Crack. The green-scaled fire owls were spirit beasts and were smarter than the spirit beasts. A few of them grabbed boulders that weighed a few hundred kilograms and flapped their wings a few hundred meters in the air, throwing them at Jiang Tian. But these couldn't hurt Jiang Tian. With a wave of his hand, the boulders were thrown far away. At the same time, he took a step forward and slashed out with the Li fire chi weapon. The chieftain and the green-scaled fire owls fell to the ground. The green-scaled fire owls' wings were broken. They spun in place and rubbed the stones with their claws angrily, splashing sparks. "Black Monkey, what other tricks do you have? Just use them." Jiang Tian looked at the shocked and furious chieftain and sneered. "Bastard, do you think I don't have the ability to kill you?" The chieftain was furious. He waved his scepter and recited a string of obscure spells. 10,000 owls god-killing array. Suddenly, the green-scaled fire owls lined up in 3 neat teams above Jiang Tian and then rushed toward Jiang Tian without fear of death. Boom. Jiang Tian stirred up a 7th metal true essence shield like a golden bubble being blown up. It suddenly shook out. Whoosh. Several green-scaled fire owls that rushed first were shaken and flew out 10 meters away, but they immediately flapped their wings and lined up at the end of the team. More green-scaled fire owls were connected head to tail and rushed over. The impact of each one was very majestic, making earth-shattering noises. It could break helicopters, overturn tanks, and make the 7th metal true essence shield ripple. It seemed to be in danger of collapse. It's really troublesome. The ancestor of the fire owls who cultivated into a human body did not come out. It seems that I have to kill all these green-scaled fire owls. Jiang Tian sighed a little regretfully. These green-scaled fire owls, he could naturally kill them with the 7th metal chi weapon. It's just a pity to kill them. They could clearly be built into a flying army of spiritual birds. If a master of the immortal realm rode on the green-scaled fire owls, coupled with hot weapons, the combat effectiveness would definitely be doubled. How powerful would it be, comparable to thousands of soldiers and horses? Standing in a safe corner behind Jiang Tian, Huang Linger saw Jiang Tian frowning. That faint sense of loss made her very anxious and uncomfortable. She wanted to see a smile on Jiang Tian's face, just as she expected the dark clouds to disperse and reveal the bright sunshine. Entangle. She almost instinctively waved the heavenly source wooden stick in her hand and displayed the divine withered art. Boom, boom. At this moment, the originally pitch-black night sky was lit up by streaks of green light. The green light erupted from the heavenly source wooden stick, like the aurora borealis, changing constantly, full of ethereal and holy aura. The green light enveloped countless plants and floated over the blood orchid waterfall. At this moment time seemed to pass very slowly. Divine withered art, the first round. The green light fell into the eyes of Jiang Tian, with an indescribable brilliance and beauty. Under the cover of the green light, the hundreds of meters around the blood orchid waterfall, thousands of towering trees, countless green plants, and vines seemed to come alive in an instant. The tree swayed with joy, and the unknown flowers shook crazily as if they were dancing, about to leave the ground and rise into the sky. Amidst the dense and sharp sounds, vines suddenly grew crazily. In the blink of an eye they were 100 meters long. They were so dense that they covered the sky like giant green pythons. The chief and the 2 elders were stunned. They looked at the green ocean in front of them in disbelief. At this moment an instant was eternity. Those vines exuded a mesmerizing halo and looked very gentle. In an instant they jumped to the side of the green-scaled fire owls and wrapped them up. The thick and powerful vines were surrounded by a mesmerizing green-wood aura, but they were incomparably dangerous. They were like spirit snakes, pythons and flood dragons, nimbly circling, coiling and shrinking. In the blink of an eye, countless vines had wrapped around the green-scaled firebirds like rice dumplings. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Then those vines were like rubber bands that had been stretched to the extreme and suddenly bounced back. All of them abruptly contracted. Bang, bang, bang. One by one the green-scaled firebirds crashed into the ground. They were dizzy from the fall and screamed miserably. Oh. They struggled and screamed with all their might, but it was useless. The more they struggled, the more the vines contracted, almost breaking their bones. Not bad. Jiang Tian nodded and praised. The wood aura has completely integrated into the vines within a radius of several hundred meters. Moreover, it has also mobilized the wood element aura of other plants. It can be used at will, making these vines far more flexible than steel wires. Really? I thought it wasn't good. Huang Linger's pretty face blushed. She was both embarrassed and happy. It was a great surprise to receive Jiang Tian's praise. Very good. Jiang Tian affirmed again. Then he looked at the ghastly pale tribal chief and said calmly, "Trash, I can kill you with a raise of my hand. Tell those 3 ugly monsters of your tribe to come out and die." The tribal chief's face was full of panic. Then he forced himself to calm down and yelled angrily, "You will be killed by the gods. You will die very, very miserably. Who dares to hurt my descendant? Do you want to die?" At this moment, on a mountain peak in the southern part of the tribe, a mournful howl filled with killing intent and anger echoed throughout the heavens and earth. Boom! A dazzling green light shot out from a cave. It was as straight as an arrow and faster than lightning. Heavens, the green-scaled firebird god is finally going to strike. The tribal chief and the 2 elders were ecstatic as they knelt down toward the southern mountain peak. Chapter 584. Almost at the same time, the water in the depths of Kos Lake, which was 10 kilometers in radius, surged as if it was boiling. Boom! Pillars of water that were more than 10 meters high rose up into the sky, and huge waves rose up and down. In this land there are only 3 true gods. Gods of other races are nothing more than insect-like humans. A flood serpent that was more than 50 meters long soared into the air, cackling strangely. It quickly slithered through the forest and pounced over. The scales all over his body flickered with a golden light like the mouth of a bowl. His inverted triangular head was the size of a small car. His eyes were scarlet red like red lanterns and his golden pupils were like needles. They burst out with an ominous light that was extremely frightening. Boom! Deep in the forest, the ground suddenly crumbled. A giant made of sand rose from the ground like a mountain. The gravel and soil changed rapidly, forming his head, facial features and limbs in a dazzling manner. He's an overlord. Perhaps if I devour his blood essence I will be able to forge my own body. The stone giant's facial features were lifelike, and even its expression was lifelike. He sorrowfully looked at his hands, took a big step forward, broke through the dense forest and rushed towards Xianxia. The green light came the fastest. It was a bird demon with a human body and a human head. It had a pair of green scaled wings on its back. A half-step shape-shifting demon beast. Not bad. Xianxia's eyes were filled with excitement. He was delighted to see a prey and he took a step forward. A half-step shape-shifting demon beast was close to forming a demon core. Some of them even had half a demon core and were as powerful as a Foundation establishment cultivator. This was the first time Xianxia had met such a powerful demon beast since he was reborn. Die! Without saying anything, he raised a long strange hook that was shining with a cold light and threw it towards Xianxia. The strange hooks were like the claws of an eagle, sharp and incisive. With a strange howl they could tear apart a tank. Xianxia countered. He waved his finger and a leaf fire chi weapon cut off one of the green-scaled bird god's arms. At the same time he threw a punch at the bird's chest. Shoo! The green-scaled divine bird was sent flying dozens of meters away before it fell into the forest and screamed in pain. That bastard is so powerful. He can cut off the bird god's arm. That's terrifying. The hearts of the two elders trembled as they stared with their mouths agape, unable to believe their eyes. Don't worry. It's just the beginning. Only the chief was able to keep his cool. As expected, the green-scaled bird god used a secret art and formed a new arm. He crawled to his feet, his face covered in dust. He stared at Xianxia in shock and anger, gnashing his teeth. Damn you! I've never been so embarrassed even when I fought against the British army. In the next moment he flapped his wings and shot toward Xianxia like an arrow. He was 10 times faster than before and was almost at the speed of sound, which was beyond the limit of a normal martial arts grandmaster. Feathered beast. I'm going to kill you. Xianxia snorted coldly with a mocking expression. Back when he was in the outer realm he had killed countless green-scaled fire owls at the manifestation realm, let alone a half-step manifestation realm cultivator. Go to hell. The green-scaled bird god was enraged. He opened his mouth and spat out a jet of azure fire at Xianxia. This fire was thousands of degrees hot and could melt metal. Could turn a tank into molten steel in a few minutes. But to Xianxia it was just a joke. He could even control Zhang Qianlei's thunder laws, not to mention this one. Enough. Seeing this, coldness flashed across Xianxia's eyes. He extended both of his hands and sucked away the strange flames. This fire was a biological fire which was much weaker than the heavenly fire and earthly fire. Besides, the green-scaled bird god wasn't very good at cultivation. After the 3-meter-long flame entered Xianxia's palm, Xianxia casually grabbed it a few times and compressed it into a cyan-long sword. It became more condensed and the fire didn't flicker at all. It seemed to be made of jade. From afar, it looked like a peerless divine weapon flickering with green light. Xianxia held the sword hilt and his aura instantly changed. In the blink of an eye, he had transformed from an ordinary young man into a peerless sword immortal who had revealed his sharpness. His hair fluttered like a waterfall. He held the sword with his right hand and flicked the hilt with his left hand. However, its lethality was extremely shocking. Whoosh! Like a supersonic fighter breaking the sound barrier, a cone-shaped cloud of white gas shot out from the end of the azure sword. The sharp tip of the sword created streaks of blue lightning from the friction with the air, piercing toward the green-scaled divine bird like a comet piercing through the earth. Facing this sword, the green-scaled bird god was terrified. He flapped his wings and quickly retreated while protecting his body. The 3 chiefs were also shocked. They didn't expect Zhang Tian to be so powerful that he could control the fire of the bird god. Boom. The moment the azure sword hit the green-scaled bird god, it exploded like a missile. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The green-scaled bird god was blown a few hundred meters away like a leaf in a storm and rolled on the ground. His wings were broken and his feathers fell off. His white bones were exposed and his face was covered in mud. So powerful. How can there be such a powerful master in this world? The green-scaled bird god was terrified. He knew that he was no match for Zhang Tian and didn't dare to go forward. I'll kill him. Boom, boom. The earth quaked and the mountains swayed. The stone golem god was like a small mountain as it charged forward. He was more than 10 meters tall and stood between the heavens and the earth. With every step he took, the ground cracked and collapsed and the houses trembled. How can he be like this? See, human? When Huang Linger saw this, her beautiful face turned pale and her heart skipped a beat. He is human. But he's already possessed. Zhang Tian shook his head and smiled wryly. He cultivates an earth element art, but unfortunately he can't control the earth element true qi. His body was turned into a crystal and became like mud. There was a hint of mockery in his voice as he spoke calmly. Don't be fooled by his size. In truth, he's too big for his own good. His psychic energy can no longer condense and control the earth element true qi. His force field is constantly collapsing, so his body is constantly expanding and becoming contaminated with dirt. If nothing unexpected happens, his psychic energy will disappear within 10 years and he will perish along with his body. So that's how it is. Huang Linger was somewhat reassured. Zhang Tian held his hands behind his back as he looked at the charging stone man god. Clay doll, if you submit, I'll lend you a helping hand. Calm your mind and focus your mind to reconstruct your body. If you don't submit, I'll make sure you're finished. Madman, you're so rude. Once this god devours your psychic energy and body, I'll naturally reconstruct my body. The stone man god was furious, his voice like the rumbling of diamonds, ear-piercing and harsh. Rumble. A fist like a tank flew through the air, leaving behind afterimages as it hurtled toward Zhang Tian. You're courting death. Seeing this, Zhang Tian's eyes flashed with sharpness as he said with his divine sense, Linger, earth grab, and root. Yes. Huang Linger was wearing a cotton t-shirt, hot pants and canvas boots, revealing her snow-white slender legs. She was also wearing a cute sun hat, looking like a backpacker who had come to the tropics for an adventure trip. She was overflowing with youth and vitality. But the moment she took a step forward, her aura immediately changed. She was like a goddess who controlled the cycle of life and death, exuding an ethereal, holy and transcendent aura. Earth grab. With a soft cry, she pointed the heavenly origins wooden staff at the stone golem god. Green light filled the air as dragon-like roots grew out of the stone man god's body, weaving into a net. What's this? The stone man god's body froze as a bad feeling welled up in his heart. Root. The ethereal voice spoke once more. In an instant, the tree roots were like giant leeches that could penetrate any hole they could find. They crawled through the cracks and dug into the stone golem god's organs. But, heavens! Why is my psychic energy and chi being sucked away? The stone man god opened his mouth and screamed, his eyes filled with fear. He staggered as if he were drunk. In the next moment he fell heavily to the ground with a bang like a tree that had been cut down. How is this possible? Not even the stone man god is a match. The green-scaled bird god and the others were dumbfounded, staring at Zhang Tian and Linger in shock and fear. Root was one of the basic moves of the divine life and death art. It used earth to produce wood, constantly converting earth energy into wood energy. And the stone man god was relying on the earth energy to create a force field, barely maintaining his form and attack power. Huang Linger's move was like using a water pump to suck away the blood and energy of an ordinary person, perfectly countering the stone man god. Release me. I submit. I'm willing to be your servant. The stone golem god was terrified. He rolled and struggled on the ground as if he had been coiled by a viper. He screamed and begged for mercy. It's too late. I've already given you a chance, but you didn't cherish it. Zhang Tian's eyes were indifferent. Qing. Huang Linger raised her eyebrows. Her left hand formed a seal, and the delicate heavenly source wooden stick pointed again. Large clouds of green energy began to emerge from the stone golem god's body like green clouds. They rapidly transformed into green pillars of chi that resembled tentacles and rushed into the heavenly source wooden staff. What sorcery is this? Let me go. The stone man god was terrified. His stone man physique did not even fear the bombardment of the British fleet's heavy cannons. His body could be reassembled after being shattered. But at this moment, it was as if the firewood under the cauldron had been removed, and it seemed as if it would completely vanish in the next moment. Brother Stone, I'm here to save you. The serpent finally arrived. It raised its head as if it were a human standing on two legs. The palm-sized scales on its body suddenly burst open, making a rustling sound. It opened its bloody mouth and bit at Xianxia and the stone man god. Its sharp fangs glowed with a chilling light. The force of its bite was so powerful that it could tear through steel. Its sharp fangs dripped with a viscous venom. It was so poisonous that a drop of it could kill a transcendent grandmaster. You're just a snake monster that hasn't evolved into a serpent. How dare you call yourself a dragon? Go to hell. In response, Xianxia's foot descended from the sky, piercing through the clouds as it stomped on the serpent's giant head. Chapter 585. Boom. Xianxia's initial success gung metal divine body was so powerful that he could crush the earth and destroy mountains with a stomp. Bang. The head of the Jiao serpent, which was the size of a car, fell heavily on the ground, shattering the rocks. Old dragon, I'm convinced. Spare me the old dragon and I'll be your pet. I'll be obedient and cute. The Jiao serpent god felt that his head would explode in the next moment. There was deep fear in his eyes as he spoke in human language. His serpent tail waved like a white flag as he slapped the ground. Old dragon, I admire the strong the most. Clearly, you're the one I've been looking for so many years. This is the first time I've seen such a powerful and handsome overlord since I was born. I, the old dragon, swear to the lamp that from now on this is my master. No one can take him from me. He was immediately terrified. He flattered Xianxia incessantly, flattering him like a tide, desperately flattering Xianxia, without any integrity to speak of. Stinky worm, you're useless. We're gods. How can we lower our heads? The Qinlin divine bird roared angrily. Can't you see that old stone is about to die? They're too powerful. We're no match for them. The Jiao serpent god lay there lazily like the famous Guyu Lai. He picked his nose with his tail and said casually, Gods, you're in a good mood. Hee. You seem to be in the zone. Don't you know what you are? You're just a bird man. If you want to fight, go ahead. The old dragon won't fight anyway. I can't wait to be loyal to such a master. The Qinlin divine bird was speechless. At this time, the stone man god's body had shrunk to the size of a human, but his body was still abnormally tall, more than 3 meters. His skin was very rough and there was a yellow aura around him. Huang Linger withdrew her technique. The stone man god stood up and bowed. He clasped his fists and said gratefully with tears in his eyes, Thank you, goddess, for restraining the impure demonic chi in my body and allowing me to reform my body. Your subordinate, Shirley, swears loyalty to the goddess. Huang Linger said helplessly, Jiangtian, I can't bear to kill him. Can you let him go too? Seeing this, Jiangtian could only shake his head helplessly. Huang Linger was still kind-hearted and did not want to kill people. 2 to 1, you can't vote even if you raise your hands. Birdman, why don't you submit as well? The flood dragon god stretched lazily. In fact, when the green-scaled bird god saw Huang Linger remove the impurities in Shirley's body, she was shocked and impressed. At this moment when they heard this, they did not dare to hesitate. They also rushed to kneel down, lowered their heads and cupped their fists. Your subordinate, Qing Linzi, is willing to follow and serve Grandmaster for the rest of my life. If you have any orders, I won't dare to disobey. Where are you from? Is it the ruins of immortality? Jiang Tian asked. Ruins of immortality? What's that? They were confused. Relax. Jiang Tian used his divine sense to search their minds with the soul-searching divine technique. Could it be that their memories have been sealed? Jiang Tian was slightly stunned. They indeed did not have any memories of the ruins of immortality. Their memories were from decades ago, but at that time they were already in duosony, and their cultivation was comparable to their current state. They were abnormally powerful. Each of them had a very vague and chaotic memory in their minds. However, there seemed to be a Taoist seal blocking it. With Jiang Tian's current strength, he could not open it. Yes, this old dragon also feels that a memory is fading in and out. It seems that I have Alzheimer's. Strange. The serpent winked like a human and was very distressed. Guard this place. I'm going to cultivate in seclusion. Jiang Tian could only put this matter aside for now. With a flick of his sleeve, he sat on a huge rock next to the waterfall, took out the mature divine sword blood arrow orchid and various supplementary herbs, and began to refine. Yes. Your subordinates will do their best. Shirley and Qing Linzi hurriedly responded loudly. They immediately became the most loyal servants, occupying the peaks around the valley and staying vigilant. Jiang Tian Sidoni is too chaotic. We've already got a blood arrow orchid. Let's go back quickly. Huang Linger said. Oh. Jiang Tian shook his head slightly and a glint of determination flashed in his eyes. Since we're here, let's wait for the blood arrow orchid to mature and take it away. You need it and so does your sister Qing. Master Taoist, you didn't listen to Uncle Jiang. You've already destroyed 3 lines of defense of the government army. When Jiang Tian was fighting with the 3 entities, little Arthur was carried on Zhang Qianlei's shoulder and was a bit worried. His Chinese was a bit shaky. Yes, Zhang Qianlei did not listen to Jiang Tian at all. He ran as fast as lightning and covered 100 kilometers in an hour. However, he didn't let go of any of the government's defensive lines that he encountered. He broke through all of them and killed until heads rolled. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled as he wiped out several groups of troops. Haha, your Uncle Jiang is too soft and not domineering enough. How dare these fucking government army block my way? Do they have a death wish? Zhang Qianlei said fiercely. They're just doing a routine inspection. Little Arthur did not sympathize with the government army, but he thought Zhang Qianlei should listen to Jiang Tian. Why are they inspecting me? Zhang Qianlei flew 100 meters in one step and said angrily, even old Jiang bowed to me when he saw me. Who's old Jiang? A bald guy who likes to keep a diary. But you promised Uncle Jiang that you wouldn't fight. What does he know? Zhang Qianlei said arrogantly, let me tell you, a man has to be domineering. Just because he looks at me in the crowd, I'll kill him. That's the only way people will be afraid of you. Do you understand? But you'll cause the government army to fight back. You've killed a few thousand of them. Little Arthur shuddered when he thought about the battle just now. This Tao Master Zhang was like a demon god, instantly breaking through line after line of defense. Everywhere he passed, lightning flashed and only ashes and corpses were left behind. Don't worry. Chitian Monkey will come to help us later. They've already sent the people of Jining Company to the refuge camp. But... Little Arthur wanted to say something but stopped. You're so stubborn. So much nonsense. Didn't you treat your Uncle Jiang's words like a god? Zhang Qianlei smacked his butt and snorted. Did your Uncle Jiang say that he wants me to intimidate that President Kuba? Yes. That's right, I'm just trying to intimidate him. These government army soldiers have committed all kinds of crimes. They deserve to be killed. Zhang Qianlei said with a smile. We've arrived at Redstone City. It's the second largest city in Sidoni, and it's also the only industrial city. Little Arthur sighed. He jumped down from Zhang Qianlei's back and obediently hid in a cave. There are 3,000 soldiers stationed here. Not bad, not bad. I want to kill to my heart's content. Zhang Qianlei streaked across the sky like a stream of light, crossing mountains and jungles as he charged toward the 88th Army. An hour later, Zhang Qianlei had killed thousands of people and destroyed all their weapons. He also pointed at the head of the mayor of Redstone City and left with little Arthur. All along the way, Zhang Qianlei carried out a bloodbath. It was practically as if he was chopping melons and vegetables, and he blasted apart army after army. Whether it was the government army, the resistance army, or the rebel army, they were all defeated. Finally, San Juan was right in front of him. Soldiers swarmed in from all directions and entered the trenches and bunkers. They were on full alert and looked into the distance with fear in their eyes. In the sky, dozens of old-fashioned helicopters with all kinds of weapons were hovering. On the ground, tanks and howitzers were also gathering. I wonder if I'm more famous than that brat Jiang Tian on the international stage. Zhang Qianlei stood at the top of a mountain outside the city and looked down at the sparsely lit city. I'm afraid not. Japan is a big country and Sidonia is a poor and backward small country in Africa. Zhang Qianlei was furious. He waved his hands and stomped his feet in anger. He grabbed his hair in pain and said, "Maybe the effect will be better if I kill the president." Late at night, San Juan, the president's residence. The president, General Kuba, was giving a speech to the camera. Sidonia only had one national television station. General Kuba's speech was the only television program, and it was broadcast 24 hours a day. The former captain of the Royal Navy's George Castle had a fierce face. He wore a bright red beret and a khaki military uniform. There were 7 large stars on his epaulets, golden tassels and ribbons. His chest was full of medals of unknown origin. He looked very funny. The president sometimes raised his arms and shouted at the camera, sometimes smashed his fists fiercely, sometimes cried bitterly and sometimes spoke softly. He was very infectious. It seemed that he was also a national leader at the level of an award-winning actor. After recording tomorrow's speech, the president, who was busy every day, puffed out his chest and walked quickly into a magnificent conference room to hold a war meeting. What surprised and angered the president was that, when he walked in, no one cared about him at all. Everyone was in a mess. Countless phones rang one after another and no one could answer them. "Hi Sony boys, look what a mess you are in." The president suppressed his anger and used his middle finger to knock on the luxurious African mahogany desk imported from Italy. "Mr. President, bad news." The Minister of Defense stood up and said anxiously, a strong person suddenly appeared. "Our Cass Lake camp has been occupied by them. They are pushing all the way from Cass Lake to the capital, San Juan." "Fuck." The president was slightly stunned and cursed. He said angrily, "Is it that shameless drug addict Thorpe or that son of a bitch Prince Bobby?" "No, it's Wuxia people." "That's impossible. Wuxia people have always been very honest and I have been very kind to them. I have only killed them but I have never tortured them." "Mr. President, we are not mistaken. The 18th line of defense has been broken through by Wuxia people. 3,000 soldiers died and the 199th Army was almost completely wiped out. The 15th line of defense has also collapsed. Lieutenant General Ron has been killed. The 12th line of defense has been broken through by the enemy. The 16th Armored Division has been wiped out. No one survived. The 8th line of defense has been broken through. The 8th Tank Division has been wiped out. No one survived. The enemy has now broken through Redstone City and is less than 30 kilometers away from the capital, San Juan. They will be there in an hour." Chapter 586. The bad news rang in the president's ears one by one. His face turned pale and his shock gradually turned into anger. "Are they mercenaries from Wuxia? How many of them are there? What weapons are they equipped with? Are they the rebels hired by the Crown Prince or Thorpe?" President Kuba slammed the table angrily, like an angry African lion roaring. "According to the witnesses, 2 people defeated the Cass Lake camp, but the one who advanced toward the capital was one person." The Minister of Defense's bloodshot eyes trembled slightly. "Are you kidding?" President Kuba was shocked at first and he slammed the table angrily. Then he seemed to have thought of something and he was stunned. He murmured with fear in his eyes, "It can't be that kind of person, right? The other person went to the Longevity tribe. He should be there to pick blood orchids." An intelligence officer said with an ashen face, "And we have contacted the chief of the Longevity tribe. They said that the gods of the Longevity tribe have terminated their cooperation with us. It must be that kind of person." President Kuba said angrily, "Connect me to the British MI6 immediately and report the information to them." The British MI6 has identified the 2 super soldiers in the photo. At this time, a general in a British Navy uniform rushed in. He scanned the room and said calmly, "They said that one of them is called Kong Taechu, the first on the Master Divine role in Wuxia and the third on the American CIA's power ranking. He once defeated the 28th Mixed Army Brigade in Japan alone." A stack of information was quickly distributed to President Kuba and the generals present. The other person should be the Taoist master Zhang Qianlei in Huaxia's Republic of China. He is a veteran immortal state warrior who once defeated the invasion of the Palace of Gods. His strength is on par with Kong Teichu. He is the one who attacked the capital. And the giant ape that appeared near the Gold Ning group is a super demon raised by Kong Teichu. It also participated in the battle of the 28th Mixed Army Brigade in Japan. Kong Teichu. Many of the high-ranking generals present were shocked, their hearts thumping as they looked at each other. They were a puppet regime supported by Britain and the European Union. Although he was holed up in Sidoni, a small place in the middle of nowhere, he was able to share some top-secret information from the British military. He had heard of Jiang Tian's name. Kong Teichu once dominated Japan, single-handedly defeating tens of thousands of soldiers and forcing the prime minister to lower his head. Even though Japan was defeated in World War II, it is still one of the most powerful countries in the world. How can the government army stop someone as strong as Kong Teichu with these weapons and equipment that were eliminated in World War II? Yeah, we can't. Perhaps we should inform their embassy and ask Huaxia's diplomats to mediate with Kong Teichu? Many of the generals hung their heads dejectedly, their faces as if they had lost their parents. Coward! President Kuba finished reading the information in a fleeting manner and roared angrily. They have already reached the capital. If we retreat, it will be the same as giving up our power to them. Pass down my order. The 28th Route Army, 19th Route Army, 7th Route Army, Sidoni's Air Force, and Tank Division outside the capital are to immediately form a defense line and stop Zhang Qianlei at all costs. Also, call in the Northern Army as reinforcements. I don't believe that an old man over 100 years old can withstand our firepower. He slammed the Desert Eagle made of gold on the table and shouted, "All the generals, it's time for the motherland and the people to test you. Go and supervise the battle immediately. Whoever dares to retreat will be a traitor to the people of Sidoni and will be punished by military law." Yes, Mr. President. The Minister of Defense and many generals were so scared that they trembled and saluted together. Mr. Wilson, those troops might not be able to fight against Zhang Qianlei and Kong Teichu. After sending these people out, the domineering President Kuba, the local tyrant of Sidoni who controlled hundreds of thousands of troops, was very respectful to the British naval officer. He bowed slightly and said with a humble smile, "I still hope that the gods of the Pantheon Temple can help." Wilson smiled modestly and said, "Don't worry, Mr. President. Sidoni has been Britain's territory since ancient times. No matter how strong Kong Teichu is, he shouldn't invade Sidoni and he shouldn't covet the blood orchids. He has already broken the International Treaty of the Strong. The European Union and the Pantheon Temple are not weak and can be bullied. We are the victors of World War II. The gods are already on their way and they will definitely help." "That's good. That's good." President Kuba nodded with joy on his face. He secretly let out a long sigh. The two old demons Kong Teichu and Zhang Qianlei had taken action. They were invincible all the way and even took over the Longevity tribe. This frightened President Kuba quite a bit. At this moment, on the southern front line of the capital, San Juan, Sidoni's government troops finally started shouting. A huge loudspeaker mounted on an armored vehicle emitted waves of sound waves. "Zhang Qianlei, put down your weapons and surrender. Don't make any unnecessary resistance. Otherwise we will kill you immediately," they shouted in both English and Chinese. They actually know my Taoist name. My name has even spread to Africa. I'm quite famous. Zhang Qianlei grinned and was very pleased with himself. However, the next moment anger appeared on his face. He gritted his teeth and said, "Fuck you. You know my name and you still dare to be so disrespectful. You're courting death. I'll go and kill them. What should I do?" Little Arthur was so scared that his legs trembled. There were more than 10,000 troops this time. There were also large howitzers, helicopters, fighter jets, and so on. Once they opened fire, he would have nowhere to hide. So troublesome. I shouldn't have brought you here. You're a burden." Zhang Qianlei was helpless. He took out a protective jade pendant and hung it around little Arthur's neck. Then he let little Arthur ride on his neck and step into the air. This step was not more nor less, it was exactly 100 meters. He flew to 100 meters above the edge of the army formation. "Stop right now. Otherwise we'll open fire immediately." The commander's voice was trembling from the loudspeaker. Many soldiers held the shafts of their guns tightly and looked at the mighty figure 100 meters in the air, trembling. They had heard some rumors a long time ago. Sidoni suddenly attacked two alien gods. One of them could slash a tank with a golden blade and the other could control thunder and lightning. They didn't believe it at first, but at this moment they couldn't help but believe it. They were real gods. Sidoni was originally extremely backward. There were many ghosts and gods and all kinds of beliefs, but they were all firm believers. Noisy. Zhou Xian cast a Dharma spell. A bolt of lightning flashed across the sky and directly blew the armored vehicle where the commander was to pieces. The commander was instantly killed. Open fire. All the commanders roared in unison. Suddenly, thousands of soldiers fired at the same time. The bullets were like dense raindrops covering Zhou Xian. There was no lack of fire interwoven by heavy machine guns and armor-piercing and incendiary bullets shot by sniper rifles. On the entire battlefield, thousands of soldiers fired at one person. That kind of power and lethality was unimaginable. The bullets were extremely dense, like a torrent of metal that went straight to the ninth heaven, strangling Zhou Xian. Even a tank could be blown to pieces and overturned. Zhou Xian only felt that his neck was hot. Little Arthur was so scared that he wet himself. He said angrily, "You useless little Arthur, you peed all over my neck." "That's so shocking." Little Arthur's face was full of disbelief and a trace of excitement. He clearly saw that when the bullets bombarded 3 meters away from Zhou Xian, they were immediately blocked by bright lightning and turned into copper droplets in an instant. Zhou Xian took a second step forward and crossed another 100 meters. He stomped his foot. A column of air descended from the sky, and a clear footprint suddenly appeared on a tank 100 meters below. The footprint was of normal size, indicating that Zhou Qianlei's aura did not leak out, and the footprint was getting deeper and deeper. Suddenly, the entire tank was torn apart like a firecracker. The wreckage was shot hundreds of meters away. Everywhere it passed, there were screams and several nearby armored vehicles were overturned. Zhou Qianlei's foot did not stop. He took a third step. He casually pointed his finger and a lightning net descended from the sky, completely enveloping dozens of tanks in the tank battalion. Rumble. The shells in the tanks exploded. For a moment the entire battlefield shook. The wreckage of the tanks whooshed dozens of meters high, and the billowing airwaves spread in all directions. No one survived within a mile. The fourth step. Zhou Qianlei casually clapped his hand. The turbulence in the air was like a tropical storm. The blades of the 3 helicopters in the air were shattered. After struggling for a while like headless flies, they plunged into the ground. Flames soared into the sky and black smoke billowed. Zhou Qianlei's temperament was fiery, explosive and decisive. He could be called an old demon. With each step he would either kill hundreds of people or destroy tanks and helicopters. And the way he killed was different every time. Some controlled thunder, some stomped on the ground with his Tao body, and some stirred up the energy of heaven and earth. Sky trampling 9 steps. Zhou Qianlei was unscathed. He broke through the steel defense line formed by tens of thousands of soldiers in the capital, San Juan, and swaggered into the city. An immortal. He must be a real immortal. That's right, he is the legendary god of thunder. Oh my god, I just fired at a real immortal. I am guilty. At this time many soldiers, including some middle-level and upper-level officers, knelt on the ground and bowed to Zhou Qianlei's back. They trembled and shouted. "Hey frontline, report the battle situation immediately. Has the enemy been killed?" The Minister of Defense's voice came from the radio. "I'm sorry, Minister. We didn't do it because we met a real immortal." The commander of the 28th Army put down the walkie-talkie and kowtowed to Zhou Qianlei's back. "Immortal, please forgive my sins. I will serve you forever." In the crowd, only a blonde American woman in a camouflage uniform and a helmet was frantically pressing the shutter of her camera. Big news. Big news. It turns out that Kong Teichu is not the only immortal state warrior in Wuxia. Furthermore, if the news is released, the world will be shocked. Next year's Pulitzer Prize will be mine. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.